Complete the teaching of fudge evaluation. Excellent. Reward. 8 trigrams empty palm. When did I teach Hiyashi to fool people? Kyochi felt wrong. All the words he told Hiyashi came from the heart, without any false words, and he also didn't teach Hiyashi how to fool others, like 128 palms. Wouldn't Neji do it? Could it be that Hiyashi is not as good as Neji? No way. This forced him to go back, so he wouldn't just fool the people of the U tribe into saying that he had mastered 128 palms, right? Kyochi was a little confused when he saw the reward. Empty palms are fine. But this situation. It's a little weird. Kyochi sat for a while. His current Rishi chakra has been fully filled with 100 healings mark. For the time being, the follow-up practice is to make the body more adaptable to the natural energy. This is water grinding. When he returned to the village, he really wanted to find out what happened to Hyuga. But this was an internal secret of the Hyuga clan, and outsiders had no way of knowing. He had no choice but to receive the reward first. Empty palm. In the hands of the Hyuga family, it is the 8 trigrams air palm, but in the hands of Kyochi, its role is only to release chakra from the air. After all, he didn't roll his eyes, and he didn't have the 8 trigrams field at all. But if you tap a hole, this is not very difficult. There may be slight deviations in the chakra veins of the human body, but the general location is the same. As long as you are familiar with the general orientation of the meridians of the human body, you can achieve a similar effect. Zi Luo's acupuncture point was sealed because he had a good understanding of the human body's meridians during his research on physical skills. As long as you have a certain amount of training and a good understanding of the human body, this kind of thing is not difficult to do. At least for Kyochi's current knowledge base, it is not difficult for him to do acupuncture. If you think about it this way, the empty palm is still somewhat useful. And the Hyuga family only uses ordinary chakra, and they can cooperate with high-pressure windblade and other techniques, and even ponder whether they can play fairy chakra. Even if it's not as good as Yasugami Skystrike, it's better than Hyuga. Earn blood. Kyochi is in a good mood. As for what Hiyashi did, I can guess some of it. It probably fooled the clan to master this technique, and then lifted some techniques. Kyochi didn't intend to know, but the news flew to his ears like wings. Mukai came back from the outside and touched his office like a thief. Master Kyochi. Master Hiyashi has lifted the ban on 64 palms. As long as the branch house reaches Jonin, they can all learn 64 palms. How do you know? Kyochi is weird. Although he guessed it, Mukai would know that this matter was outrageous. Mukai hesitated for a moment, and said with some embarrassment, because Hiyashi-sama came to me in private just now and asked me if I wanted to learn, and then told me about it, but I didn't want it. After he finished speaking, he immediately added, I don't think he really wants to teach me, but just wants to convey this news to you through me. You should want it. Hiyashi is one size fits all. He does things very separately and won't confuse the two. This is the conclusion drawn by Kyochi and Hiyashi several times, plus the understanding in the anime. This person divides many things too clearly. Such is the case with Hizashi. The same is true for making conditions with myself. First, the collection of books is used as a condition, and then the ninja school is discussed, and the two will not be confused. The same thing happened to Mukai. But Mukai just shook his head and said, although I don't have the luck to become your disciple, I still want to learn your will. The previous art may not be the strongest. I want to walk out of my own gentle fist. Well, if you have such ambition, I don't worry about you anymore. Kyochi smiled. Mukai's thoughts are enough to prove that the hostility towards Hyuga in his heart has completely disappeared, and now he just looks at the relationship between Hyuga and their little Hyuga with a normal heart. The essence of gentle fist is to tap acupuncture points and attack internal organs. The same goes for 64 palms. If you want to figure it out for yourself, you can read more medical books. Thank you very much for your advice. Mukai was overjoyed, as if Kyochi's words were more important than Hiyashi telling him 64 palms directly. Kyochi thought for a second, and then said, in your situation, you don't necessarily have to follow the path of gentle fist, just follow your own ideas. Yes. Mukai nodded. Kyochi has said many chicken soups, but one is his favorite. Everyone is different. What about Hyuga? He is going to go his own way. Over the years, he has rarely used 8 trigrams palms, but focused on practicing gymnastics and ninjutsu, and does not intend to have anything to do with Hyuga. This is another reason why he rejected Hiyashi. After Mukai left, Kyochi was lost in thought. Open 64 palms. This should only be Hiyashi's first step. Slowly testing and lowering the bottom line, in the end, gradually achieving the goal of lifting the clan and branch houses. If he really does, the Li Xixiang seal will only be a temporary transition. Roll eyes. If it can be promoted to Tensigan, it would be a good blood succession limit, but unfortunately, he doesn't meet any of the opening conditions of Tensigan. Still don't play Tensigan's idea. Hiyoshi's decision will not affect the village, but only within the Hyuga clan. As far as Hyuga's situation is concerned, there will be no civil strife within them at all. Even if there is, it was also the old stubbornness of the main family that was cleaned up by Hiyoshi and the branch house together. Fight against the tide of the times, and you will only be swallowed by the tide in the end. It is difficult for outsiders to know the internal changes of Hyuga, but the external changes were known to everyone in the village within a few days. All the school-age children in Hyuga went to the ninja school to learn. This is big news. The Hyuga clan used to teach internally, but now that they have entered the ninja school, it seems to be a bit of a compromise. Everyone is waiting for the subsequent power changes in the village. But there was no change in the village for a few days, as if Hyuga really just let the tribe come to the ninja school to learn, and everyone should do what they want. The only difference is, in the ninja school, every afternoon tonight, there is a group of Hyuga people who are desperately practicing gentle fist. This group of Hyuga people have 64 palms, spurs. Each of them is really exercising hard, and they don't know how to write about rest. Their appearance once again drove the number of people on the playground. This damn school competition is getting bigger and bigger. I want to graduate early. Anko wailed. Regretful. Why didn't I apply for early graduation? A year or two ago, as long as the talent was not bad, it was not a problem to graduate at the age of 7 or 8, but now it is a luxury to graduate. Even more desperate is, even after graduating, don't you still have to stay in school? Look at the guy outside. In your situation, even if you become a chunin, you're probably still the same as him. Moonlight Gale said weakly. On the way to the playground outside the window, Uchiha Obito, who is still studying at the ninja school, ran upside down. His bright green clothes are very eye-catching. Anko fell silent. The next moment, she rushed over and grabbed the blast by the neck. Why do you remind me? Ah, I'll strangle you to death. Cough cough cough. Moonlight Gale coughed violently. Anko immediately let go, so as not to get scolded again when she fell ill again, but since this guy recovered from his illness, his mouth is really poisonous. But, it seems that my own theory class is really not good enough. Hateful. I don't want to become like Obito. No, I have to study hard from today. I absolutely can't go back to school after becoming a chunin for that reason. No, your theory class is also very average. What qualifications do you have to say about me? Oh, I'm ready to stay. Maybe all chunin will come back to study in the future? Moonlight Gale was very calm. Ichiki uncle is Anbu's sub-captain, and now he also helps Kyochi with a lot of chores, and knows Kyochi very well, and Haifeng will inquire about Kyochi's news as long as he returns home. So, in the whole class, in terms of understanding of Kyochi, Moonlight Hayate claimed to be the second, and no one dared to say that he was the first. That bad and terrible routine. There is definitely a follow-up. Let's not talk about others. Uchiha Obito outside the window. Don't want to get rid of the ninja school until the theoretical class is not up to standard. During this period of time, Obito's life cannot be simply described as bitter. That is bitter home. In the morning, Kakashi and Lin will carry out missions in a team of 3, and in the afternoon, I will go back to school to attend theory classes. The most terrible thing is, in the past, the exam was only taken once a semester, but now? Once a month. Its nickname is monthly exam. Now every month, there is no easy moment, and doing tasks has become the most relaxing time in the past. Whoever said that performing tasks is a time for relaxation and rest, he would definitely give the other party a heads up. But now. Obito. Teacher Minato. Ah. Teacher, do you have a mission? When are we going to leave the village? Obito's eyes filled with emotion. The teacher finally remembered that there was another student of his in the ninja school. Minato had a signature smile on his face, full of contagion, but what he said next made Obito's expression instantly stiff. How's your study going? It's okay, I've studied hard and memorized it every day, but it just doesn't get into my head. Teacher, take me away, I don't want to stay in ninja school anymore. Obito groans. If you want to become a jonin, you must learn theoretical knowledge, command, and tactics. Do you want to be a chunin for the rest of your life? Obito, believe in your talents. You have always been very talented, but you just can't calm down. Teacher. Obito hesitated to speak. The teacher used to do the same thing. He said that he was talented and would definitely be able to become a jonin, but he really couldn't get his head around it. Compared with these theoretical lessons and command tactics, he would rather practice one more ninjutsu. Well, I'm here today to teach you a new ninjutsu. Okay. As long as I don't read books, I can do any ninjutsu. Obito jumped up with joy. I also think you can do any ninjutsu, after all you are a genius, Obito. Minato smiled. Next moment, he took out a scroll, a book. Obito was stunned. He took the scroll and the book, turned a page, and the word, Ma, was written all over his face. Teacher, you. A string of lights, the foundation of the sealing technique. A sealing technique that is very low in difficulty. As long as you learn most of the knowledge in this book, you can easily master it. Minato stroked his hair, speaking the language of the devil. Obito looked up, unable to say anything. Let yourself learn the sealing technique. Are you this material? Obviously not. Obito is still a bit tricky. The sealing technique requires a very strong knowledge reserve. Even Kakashi has not yet mastered any knowledge of the sealing technique. Teacher, forget it. Believe in yourself, you can do it. What the teacher wants to teach you is the Flying Thunder God that even Kakashi has no chance to learn. Don't you really want to learn? Flying Thunder God? Obito Halazi is going to flow down. This technique. Of course he wants to learn. And I don't even know how to Kakashi, I have to learn it myself. I must be stronger than Kakashi. He took the scroll in the book and went away. Minato couldn't help smiling. Young kids. So good. Full of innocence and energy, with a little spark of friendship, there is boundless potential. Minato, you've learned badly. Whatever I say, I am telling the truth. In my eyes, Obito is really a child with great potential, and the future will not be worse than Kakashi. Minato said seriously. He looked at Kyoshi strangely, and then asked, why are you here? I haven't seen you recently. Is Anbu out of work? The newcomers are slowly being cultivated, and I will be able to retire from Anbu after a while, but you didn't see me because you and Kushina were busy doing big things at home, right? Kyoshi couldn't help but complain. Minato, this guy. After the holiday, two people go to the street together to buy groceries, wishing they could be bundled up together, except for groceries and going out, they basically stay at home the rest of the time. That's it. Are you ashamed to say you haven't seen yourself? Minato coughed in embarrassment, didn't speak, but pointed outside, signaling Kyoshi to go out and talk. This is the school. It's not appropriate to talk about this. He also has some understanding of Hyuga's situation recently. Kyoshi has been doing too many things recently, he feels restless at home, and always has a kind of anxiety that he has been surpassed a lot, so. No way. Had to come out to work. The two went off campus and found a secluded spot above Hokage Rock. Kyoshi, the organization behind the civil unrest in Uchiha, do you have any new information lately? Not yet, there is only one suspect. Kyoshi told about Kakuzu and Scorpion, and of course told Minato about the Flying Thunder God mark. Currently only he and Minato know this mark. After hearing this, Minato couldn't hide the joy on his face. Although the imprint of Flying Thunder God can only be perceived in a certain range, it is already very rare information for us. The Red Sand Scorpion. Is it possible to solve it with Sanagakure? He hasn't used third Kazekage. Sanagakure's attitude is hard to say, but I have already sent people there. I believe there will be results in these 2 days. It just so happens that your rest is over now. How to say? Minato sat upright. As long as Kyoshi had a goal, he would not hesitate. Kyoshi thought for a while and said, train the Thunderbolt array first to ensure our mobility. It doesn't matter whether they cooperate or not with Sanagakure. It is good. Minato nodded, and took out another scroll. This is the Thunderbolt technique. During the time at home, he didn't completely fight with Kushina, but worked with Kushina to get out the Phylajun. I'll take this to Anbu for training and see if I can get a set. You can also watch over the others. As for Obito, don't count on it in the short term. Undeniable. Obito is not bad in ninjutsu and taijutsu, but based on his theoretical knowledge, it will take a long time to learn the Thunderbolt array. Haha, that can't. I'll go first. By the way, this is my little research. Take it and have a look. If it's useful, learn it. If it's useless, destroy it. Don't let too many people know about it. Kyoshi handed over the scroll containing the knowledge of Sage Mode. Minato doesn't know what it is yet. Take it over and have a look. He froze for a moment, then stared blankly at Kyoshi. I've only rested for less than 10 days, right? What? How did you even come up with Sage Mode? Minato's mentality is a little fried. Obediently. Kanda Kyoshi, this guy. Is it made of iron? I thought everyone was resting, but it turned out that only he was resting. This guy put in double effort when others were resting. The 3 Holy Lands all have Sage Mode inheritance. I have the contract of Wet Bone Forest. It is not a rare thing to learn it. This is some knowledge I have summed up. You can check it yourself. Thank you very much. If you can. Teacher Jiraiya, can you give me a copy? Kyoshi's scrolls are extremely valuable. With just a cursory glance, he saw several important knowledge points. Minato immediately thought of Jiraiya. The teacher is the same as him. Sage mode is not perfect. If the teacher can see this scroll, maybe it can make up for his own shortcomings. Of course, I plan to give him a copy, but I don't know where he is recently. Cough, maybe he's collecting materials. Minato coughed lightly. Obviously Jiraiya had contacted him recently, and he knew exactly what Jiraiya was doing recently, but he was just embarrassed to say it. It seems, it's not far from the release of Intimate Paradise. After chatting, Kyochi left with Minato flying Thunder God. Minato went home, copied Kyochi's copy for the first time, then sealed it, and passed it to Jiraiya through Mount Myoboku. He was afraid of the toad on Mount Myoboku peeping. Because Minato feels that a large part of the knowledge in Kyochi's scroll comes from the wet bone forest, which has a complementary effect on their Mount Myoboku side. Mount Myoboku cannot be known without permission. But Minato doesn't know. Katsuyu Immortal actually doesn't have any systematic training methods, just one word. Grind. This knowledge is what Kyochi combined with the state of Mount Myoboku, the Shibone Forest, and the Seal of Mantras, the three combined into one, and even more from Mount Myoboku. Only, he deleted all the parts that overlap with Mount Myoboku, and the rest have a certain complementary effect on Mount Myoboku's Sage Mode. So, this was originally written for Minato and Jiraiya. Iron Country. Jiraiya disguises herself as a samurai. The country of Iron is nothing interesting, it's not as good as the country of Tang. Well, it happens that the manuscript fee should be coming soon, so it's better to go back to the country of Tang. He. Jiraiya laughed until her eyes narrowed. Tango country is such a great place. He was thinking about it when a toad jumped out from his shoulder, and the surrounding warriors looked over immediately. Jiraiya's expression froze for a moment. Not good. Who are you? A group of warriors from the street looked over. As a warrior, it should be reasonable to carry some dry food with you, right? Jiraiya forcibly calmed down, and incidentally used ninjutsu to turn the toad into a rabbit. The warriors looked blankly, and one of them waved his hand. Catch it. Kyosuke, get out. Jiraiya picked up the toad and ran away without stopping at all. There are ninjas sneaking in. Hurry up. A group of warriors quickly assembled. This is the country of the samurai. There are no ninjas, and now there is a sneaky guy. How can they not pursue it? Jiraiya escaped with consecutive body flicker technique. After escaping the pursuers, he hid for a while, and then used the gourd toad to escape the blockade and escaped from the Iron Kingdom. Only then did he heave a long sigh of relief. It's not that I'm afraid of those samurai, but as Konoha Sanin, he appeared in the Iron Kingdom, and it is easy to be misunderstood, so it is best not to reveal his identity. Quack. This is Minato's scroll. Kosuke knew he was probably in trouble, so he spat out the scroll and quickly fled back to Mount Myoboku, leaving Jiraiya powerless and furious. Afterwards, he silently picked up the scroll, and his face immediately became serious. Sealing technique. Minato used the seal, which shows that this scroll is very important. He used the cumbersome unseal technique to untie the seal. Open it up. Jiraiya was stunned. Knowledge of Sage Mode. Kyochi, Kanda, even started to study Sage Mode? Too dangerous. Jiraiya hurriedly opened the scroll and browsed through the follow-up, and his expression gradually changed from panic to shock and dullness, and finally, he put down the scroll. The whole person fell into serious self-doubt. I'm trash. He heaved a long sigh. Kyochi is only 17 years old. Huh? Forget it. Kyochi seems to be 18 years old in a few days. He thought about what he was doing when he was 18 years old, and he seemed to be creating some messy ninjutsu, such as messy lion hair and needle jizo were the products of that time. Can't be bad. However, compared with Kyochi, his meager achievements can only be described as embarrassing. Jiraiya held the scroll, feeling extremely hot. The knowledge involved in this scroll basically does not overlap with Mount Myoboku's Sage Mode, which means that if he can achieve the effect Kyochi described, it can improve the shortcomings of its own Sage Mode to a certain extent. This kid, hey, I'm a little embarrassed to rub people all day long. What kind of gift should I give? By the way, my latest masterpiece. I just turned 18 and can read it, he. Thinking of her favorite masterpiece, Jiraiya's heart skipped a beat. It is good. Just send that. And what he wants to give is not the ordinary Intimate Heaven, but the original manuscript written by himself, the only one in the world. This will be the most precious book in the world when Toad Sage Jiraiya's name comes to fruition. The only problem is, what about Tsunade? If Tsunade finds out, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death. I'm giving Kyochi precious treasures, he shouldn't take revenge, right? Jiraiya was lost in thought. with what he knows about Kyochi. It's really hard to say, that guy is good most of the time, but disgusting people also have a hand. Forget it. Anyway, this beating is not bad, and it's not just that one gift. Jiraiya took out a sword. This is a sword he got from the Iron Kingdom. Although it is not chakra iron, it is exquisitely made. As far as the sword is concerned, it is definitely top grade, and it is very good as a collection. If he hadn't earned a lot of royalties, he would really be reluctant to buy it. Back to the village. Originally, Jiraiya didn't return to the village so early, but what happened to Uchiha made him vigilant, and he was also secretly searching for information recently, and the trip to the Iron Country was not purely for fun. Another purpose is to observe whether that organization may be the Iron Country. So far, no such signs have been seen, but not for nothing. According to his secret inquiries during the period from the country of soup to the country of iron, there seems to be some changes in the country of water recently, and the caravans traveling by sea have been blocked. At the same time, in the past few years, the various actions of the country of water have also made people suspicious. No one thought about it before, thinking that this might be Kirigakure's strategy, but combined with Kyochi's intelligence. He suspected that the Kingdom of Water might be related to this organization. Of course, it is also possible that the organization secretly manipulated the Kingdom of Water. If so, it means that the opponent has cage level or the power to control cage level. The latter is scarier than the former. If it was the latter, Jiraiya couldn't imagine how terrifying the power behind that organization was, so he had to go back to the village to discuss it. I'm afraid I can't explain clearly if I rely on Toad to communicate. At his speed, it would take less than a few days for Junger to go back from the Iron Country. As for the issue of birthday, Kyochi himself doesn't remember much. For him, the most important birthday is the day of crossing. Pity. This cannot be shared with others. But, except for him, everyone else was preparing with such enthusiasm that they didn't even let him know. 18 years old. 18 years old is also a special age in the ninja world. For example, when Kakashi was 18 years old, he was given a kissing paradise as a gift. Tsunade prepared a lot and also spent a lot of thought. Kyochi himself doesn't remember it all, he practiced sage mode every day to get used to the natural energy. There are a lot of people in this forest now. Besides him, Shisui, Asuma and Kurenai Yuhi will also come to practice from time to time, and Minato also came later. No way. Around Konoha, the place with the strongest natural energy is here. It is the suffering of those animals. Kyochi works as usual, going to the forest at night and coming to work during the day, and by the way, puts a little pressure on Anbu ninjas and students to prevent them from slack. Result. On this day, Tsunade came to him specially. Come home tonight, I have something important to discuss with you. What's important? Kyochi still doesn't understand. The office discusses the affairs of the village, and it must be related to the family to go home. Could it be? Looking for a team leader for Shizune? Kyochi was lost in thought. When he came home at dinner time, he saw his yard was beautifully arranged, with lights and candles surrounding a sakura tree in the center. A sumptuous dinner was set up under the tree. What day is this? Master Kyochi, you have worked so hard and remembered many things, but you only forgot your own birthday. Today is your 18th birthday. Shizune was helpless. In her eyes, Kyochi is a workaholic. Not only does the avatar work every day, but the main body does various research and practice, as if he never knows how to be satisfied. These dishes. Tsunade pointed at these dishes, with nostalgia and emotion on his face. When Nawaki was still there, what I was most looking forward to for a while was to cook him a grown-up feast myself. Element awareness. Kyochi watched the table vigilantly, looking carefully at Ori. Zeely shook his head lightly. He was relieved not to interrupt Tsunade's remembrance. It's not like you do it yourself. No cooking. Everything is easy to say. It's a pity that Nawaki didn't live to that time, and I don't seem to have the talent to cook, so it's hard to achieve both. Tsunade laughed at himself, and then said, fortunately, I still know some wood style. She pointed to the sakura tree behind her. This is the result of her continuous research on clones during this time. Wood style ninjutsu. Kyochi sensed it, and it was just like before he didn't have the Rishi chakra. Sakura flower tree. Although he has no feelings for this kind of flower, his heart is full of it. Thank you, Miss Tsunade. It's nothing, after today, the Kanda family will be famous in the ninja world because of you. Tsunade smiled. At this moment, her smile is extremely beautiful. Kyochi stared blankly. However, at this time, there was a pop. Ahem, cough, did I catch up? Ouch, my waist. Kyochi, I thought your birthday was approaching, and I hurried back from the Iron Country, but I was exhausted. Jiraiya climbed over the wall and came in. only to see Tsunade, Ori and Shizune with black faces, and was at a loss for words. I seem to be come at the wrong time. Well, otherwise, I'll go out first? Roll. Kyochi, I'll come back later, ahem. Wait, people leave, but gifts stay. Tsunade saw the gift sharply. Jiraiya laughed for a while, left the knife behind, and was about to leave, but Tsunade stared at his other gift box package. This is a gift for Minato. Boom boom boom. There was a knock on the door, along with Minato's voice. Master Tsunade, I'm here to visit Kyochi, just in time. Tsunade asked Shizune to open the door. Kyochi saw Jiraiya's twitching expression, and had already mourned for Jiraiya in advance. This guy. He must have prepared some shady gifts. That's okay, but you came here in private. How handsome it is to climb over the wall and enter the door, how embarrassing it is to be stared at by Tsunade's death now. The muscles on Jiraiya's face are stiff, and the awkward smile makes people want to laugh. Teacher. You are back. Why didn't you tell us? Namikaze Minato's eyes lit up. Ahem, I'll pay it back, Jiraiya. What gift did you prepare for your disciple? Please show it. I'm curious, if it looks good, give it to Kyochi too. Tsunade was flirting on one side. No need, you can go back and give this. As Jiraiya said, she was about to hide the package, but Tsunade rolled her eyes and raised her fist. Either take it out. Either lie down and go out. Choose one. Jiraiya understood, so with a bitter face, she handed the package to Minato. Minato took it and opened it. Seeing the manuscript, he immediately said pleasantly, Teacher, is this your new manuscript? Is it the continuation of Genshin Ren Chuan? Kushina watched curiously. Minato really thought it was the continuation of Genshin Ninja. Otherwise the teacher wouldn't have given it to him specially, so he didn't think too much about it, and ended up scanning a few pages in a hurry. It turned out that wasn't the case. This book is kind of weird. Not a serious thing. Minato glanced at the expressions of Kushina and Tsunade, prepared to put the book away calmly, and said, Today's protagonist is Kyochi, let's go back and read the book. And many more. Kushina pressed it down, turned to the next page, and then stared at Jiraiya with a very unkind expression, fists clenched. Kyochi sighed softly. In terms of death and surprise, Jiraiya is definitely the first. Even the current Obito can't compete with him. I'm afraid he is the only one who gives gifts. Say something. Kakashi's book, shouldn't it be Jiraiya's gift too? He expressed doubts. Besides him, who can do such a thing as sending love to heaven? Absolutely. Ms. Jiraiya. Why did you send something like Minato? Kushina bent her right hand. Fist on chakra convergent. Jiraiya is too familiar. This is a strange power technique, which belongs to Tsunade's ninjutsu, but bad street now. Even Kushina has learned it, she has an irritable temper, she has learned this technique and still hasn't torn the Konoha. Well. Everyone is an adult. This kind of book belongs to the normal cultivation of sentiment, and I have written some unique thoughts of my own in it. Jiraiya speaks faster and faster. Because Kushina's complexion is getting worse and worse, he may do it at any time. However, his explanation can't add points to his own impression of ushering in. Go to hell. Kushina roared, and his fists fell like meteors. Jiraiya wanted to dodge in an instant, but considering that after he dodged, the floor here might be gone, and it would be his fault again, so. Dirt wall. Needle Jizo. With the continuous use of the two techniques, Jiraiya's reaction and speed are completely full at this moment. Sanin's name is indeed not for nothing, in a short time. The two operations were completed, but the avalanche he expected did not come. Looking carefully through the gap, Kushina's hand was entangled by Minato and a branch. Okay. That's it for Jiraiya. Today is my birthday after all, it's not good to send him to the hospital. That's right. Jiraiya nods again and again when he lifts the ninjutsu, tears welling up in his eyes. Kyochi is reliable at the critical moment. Let's call again tomorrow. Jiraiya took back what she said before in her heart. This guy is pure animal. Although it was a fire, Kushina did stop. It's Kyochi's birthday. It's really not good to do it here. We'll settle the score when we go back. Jiraiya breathed a sigh of relief. Then I remembered something. Kyochi seemed to be using wood style just now? And can stop Kushina's strange power. The effect of this wood style seems to have a bit of the style of the first generation back then. Broken. Brothers are getting stronger, only me is pulling hips. Jiraiya's heart sank. She was not as optimistic as before. Tsunade didn't settle accounts with him. The matter of the book, there will naturally be opportunities in the future. Moreover, it's just a book. What's the big deal? As far as Kyochi's character is concerned, this book is placed in front of him, and he may not have the time and interest to read it. This guy is simply a workaholic, exactly the same as the previous first generation and second generation. Tsunade sighed secretly. Sometimes, she wished Kyochi had more interests in other areas. Certainly. This is Tsunade's unilateral idea. If you tell Kyochi, Kyochi will tell her clearly. I do not approve. It's not that he's not interested, he's just not very interested in Jiraiya's book. Having experienced countless influences in his previous life, art novels like Jiraiya are not even appetizers for him, and they are not interesting at all. If you don't have time and money, he feels that writing a book by himself may be better than Jiraiya's. What kind of ninja has no misery? Isn't that a piece of cake? Minato put down his own present. After everyone sat down and chatted for a while, Jiraiya gave Tsunade a wink. As an old teammate, he still has a tacit understanding with Tsunade. Tsunade understood in seconds. After the meal, let Shizune and Geely go down to wash the dishes, dismiss them, and they are the only ones left in the yard. Jiraiya got serious. During this period of time, I was not only collecting materials and writing books, but also secretly collecting some information. Among the information I know so far, I feel that Kirigakure is very suspicious. Speak carefully, Tsunade said hastily. Kirigakure. Before, Kyochi caught some of Kirigakure's tells and told Yagura about them on purpose, but Kirigakure didn't seem to do much at the time. If Kirigakure is really behind the organization, that's understandable. Jiraiya recounted his own experience, focusing on the recent policy of the country of water to cut off trade, as well as the recent changes in the country of water. At the same time, comparing these two time points, there is almost not much difference between before and after the civil unrest in Uchiha. Do you suspect that the country of water blocked internal and external traffic to protect those Uchiha who escaped? Kyochi understood the reason for Jiraiya's suspicion. Jiraiya nodded. The timing was so coincidental that one had to doubt it, and he continued, more than that, third Mizukage hasn't appeared for many years. Your suspicions are well founded. Tsunade nodded heavily. Kyochi was not surprised. He had suspected that there might be something wrong with third Mizukage, so he kept hinting to Yagura that if this was the case, Yagura would be stupider than giving away his head. Then he didn't do it either. Certainly. Even if Yagura is controlled, it will not affect the result much. The current Madara is by no means invincible. Kyochi is confident that he can defeat the old Madara, but under the protection of Geto statue and the power of Yin-Yang Dun, he can't find Madara's whereabouts at all. Otherwise, he had killed Madara long ago. After thinking for a while, Tsunade said, even if it is Kirigakure, we have no legitimate reasons and evidence, and we cannot directly enter the land of water at all. Yes, that's why I came back. By the way, there are also some changes in Tengen village. Jiraiya talked about the cult. Kyochi shook his head and said, they're probably not in the same group, they have different paths, but Kakuzu and Scorpion may be in the same group as the people in the dark. I suspect their target is Nagato. Nagato. After hearing this, Jiraiya opened his mouth, and finally fell silent. Rinnegan. This is Nagato's biggest secret. Nagato? What happened to the kid? He has Rinnegan. What? Jiraiya, you are. And Kyochi, Jiraiya has no sense, don't you know? That's Rinnegan. Tsunade was surprised when he heard that, and also a little bit annoyed at the same time. Rinnegan. The legendary pupil technique. It wouldn't be a surprise if the enemy's target was Rinnegan. After all, this eye was only available in Sage of Six Paths before, and those who have it may be able to master the power of immortals. Result. Both of them knew it, and they didn't say anything. According to some situations I have recently summarized, Rinnegan is not that simple, and I suspect that Nagato's eyes may not be his own. Impossible, he had Rinnegan at a very young age. Jiraiya shook her head. Kyochi looked at him and said, Nagato is a descendant of Uzumaki, chakra and physique are very strong, but I found that he uses Rinnegan's technique, which seems to be very burdensome and exhausting, and cannot be closed, which is quite similar to transplanting Uchiha Sharingan. Because of this, Rinnegan, as the most mysterious of the three pupil arts, consumes a lot of energy and exists forever, isn't it normal? Jiraiya still doesn't believe it. Kyochi smiled and said, I'm just skeptical and reasonably speculating based on some existing information. It doesn't mean that Nagato's eyes must belong to someone else, but if we follow this speculation, there will be another problem. Whose eyes are these? Impossible. Jiraiya still doesn't believe it. Nagato awakened when his parents were killed when he was a child, and he has been a Rinnegan since then. This experience cannot be faked. If implanted, it could only be done at that time, but it was only a short time, and Nagato himself has no memory at all, so it's outrageous to think about it. The most important is, Jiraiya has always believed that Nagato may be the child of prophecy in Toad Sage's mouth, but Kyochi told him that the eyes of the child of prophecy may be someone else's. This simply overturned all his previous conjectures. But Tsunade stared at death again. Jiraiya was silent. Minato came out to persuade. Teacher, Kyochi is only speculating based on the current situation, not a complete conclusion, otherwise he would not have said it until now. That's right, don't worry, and it sounds right to me. Kushina said. Minato mentioned to me that according to Nagato's characteristics, Uzumaki's physique is more obvious in him, and Chakra's body are definitely not weak. That's right, the Uzumaki family is famous for their longevity, vitality, and physique, like Kushina's. But what about Nagato's physique? At most, it is similar to ordinary people, and there is a big gap with Kushina. Kyochi continued. Jiraiya thought about it, and had to admit that Kyochi's analysis made a little sense. Nagato's physique. There is indeed a small gap between the physique of the Uzumaki family. Back to the point, if these eyes don't belong to Nagato, then whose eyes could it be? Tsunade interrupted and brought the subject back. Kyochi shrugged his shoulders and said, if I wanted to know, I would have already started to investigate. Do I still need to sit here and wait for Kakuzu to show me? Tsunade was powerless to refute. It seemed like I was asking a stupid question. But according to Kyochi's conjecture, the people behind Nagato may be very powerful, and why should he give his eyes to others? It's unreasonable. Jiraiya said, puzzled. I don't know, it may be related to a certain function of Rinnegan, or he can no longer control these eyes, or he hopes to achieve a certain purpose through Nagato's Rinnegan. Kyochi made a guessing, thoughtful expression. I remember you said that Itachi was taken away by some kind of manipulative technique, and there were no problems found through memory? Tsunade thought of information about Itachi. Be manipulated and be able to Earth-style. In this case, connected. The other party has the ability to manipulate others. If the premise that Nagato's eyes are not his own is correct, then the eyes must belong to the person behind this organization. Tsunade said excitedly. Kyochi nodded silently at the side, and the others obviously thought about it too, but none of the three of them could believe this guess. If this was the case, the people behind the mysterious organization would be too scary. In that case, isn't Nagato in danger? Don't worry, we don't have the ability to fully track each other yet. If those eyes really belong to the other party, it's useless for you to be anxious. If not, then I guessed wrong, let alone worry. That makes sense. Jiraiya sat down again, he organized his thoughts, and finally his mind was a mess, and he didn't know what to do for a short time. Mainly, the three views were shocked. The child of prophecy is most likely not Nagato. The eyes might not be his, either. This is so. Highlight a hemp. Tsunade was also confused. She couldn't imagine for a while that there might be such an enemy behind the ninja world. Hey, let me tell you, these are just speculations, don't you need to look so stressed. Besides, I don't think I usually say these things, if I don't get depressed early like you. Kyochi couldn't help but complain. The corners of the mouths of the others twitched. What a shame. Who would not be surprised and terrified by such a shocking guess? And isn't this kid still pretending to be a secret? They looked at Kyochi and thought it was possible. This guy likes to do research quietly. He used to be like this, pondering and practicing quietly, but he has accumulated so much without knowing it. After a wave of accumulation, the strength is advancing by leaps and bounds. It is estimated that something is simmering. Jiraiya came here excitedly, and left worriedly, even forgetting that he might have to be beaten up when he went back, while Kyochi didn't say much. All the chats tonight are just guesses, without any evidence, so they can't be discussed on the stage, but it's okay to chat with a few people in private. At least, Jiraiya is paying more attention now. Because Rinnegan was too shocking, everyone forgot to talk about the water country. It was not until the next day that the group remembered that the first thing yesterday seemed to be the water country and Kirigakure. But then, Jiraiya thought of Kyochi, even Rinnegan's guess was so detailed, how could he not notice the change in the country of water? I am afraid that since I discovered that the Kirigakure ninja was being manipulated, I have already started to pay attention to the movement of the country of water. I may not be able to obtain the information later than Kyochi. Actually, Kyochi has indeed been prepared for a long time. In addition to the dark game of Yagura, he has deployed many Anbu teams on the Eastern Front to monitor changes on the Eastern Front at all times. Now that there is no Danzo holding him back, he doesn't need to worry about his arrangement, whether he will be betrayed by some 25-year-old under some name. As for Kakuzu, this is the biggest trouble. The imprint of Flying Thunder God can be used as a mark to locate Kakuzu. Although the range of perception is limited, it is definitely larger than Kakuzu's range of perception. With Ori's Kagura Mind Eye, It can even locate Kakuzu and Scorpion without knowing it. However, the biggest problem is not with them, but with Black Zetsu and White Zetsu. So far, he has not been able to perfectly identify Black and White Zetsu, and only Kusaki technique can perceive it a little bit. So, before that, he had to upgrade wood style first, let the plants become his eyes, and avoid the perception of White Zetsu, at least not be discovered in the first place. Now Kyochi is trying to master natural energy, not Rishi Chakra. This kind of power White Zetsu is relatively unfamiliar, not as familiar as Chakra and Immortal Chakra, and will not be perceived immediately. Certainly. Fighting with natural energy, Kyochi couldn't find a way in a short time, but he used it to transform plants and hide his own chakra, which has recently been regarded as a small achievement. In the Forest of Death, the vine that Kyochi is often used to hide has now had an initial effect. It can be used after raising it again. Next step. Kyochi took the spell and found Ori. Master Kyochi. Geely, there is a more important task here. You have almost practiced the sealing technique recently, so it shouldn't be difficult to master it. Kyochi taught her the art. Geely took it and studied it, and said, "This is a space-time positioning technique, which is somewhat similar to the summoning technique. What do you want me to do? I need you to perceive it, the kind that can be perceived from a long distance. This is very important. If it doesn't work, it's okay. I can do it myself, but the range is smaller." In Anbu, Ori told Kyochi about her abilities. In addition to healing, there is perception, so. She took it and studied it for a while, then closed her eyes and tried to perceive its location. After a while, she looked upstairs and said, "Master Hokage's office seems to have 2 such spells." "That's right, one is mine and the other is Minato's, anymore." "Not for the time being. Maybe I'm not familiar enough with it. Please give me some time, sir. I will definitely master it within 3 days. Geely shook his head, but quickly made another vow. "You don't need to fight so hard, just take your time. I mainly consider that your perception range is larger, so I hope to use your ability. In fact, Minato and I can do it too." Kyochi explained. The range of Chakra's perception is not as good as Kagura's mind, but it is much stronger than ordinary perception. Flying Thunder God is extremely difficult after all. Geely didn't say a word. Obviously he had already made up his mind to thoroughly understand this technique within a few days, to the point where it can be sensed from a distance. On this day, Kyochi didn't see Jiraiya, and he didn't know much about Jiraiya's situation, only that the wall of Minato's house suddenly collapsed. Can only say, congratulations to Jiraiya, hope he's okay and didn't really end up in the hospital. This guy is purely for death, not worthy of sympathy at all. Kyochi picked up the papers on the desk. Now on Anbu's side, Kazuki Tsukiko is in charge most of the time, and Hyuga Mukai is in charge of the action team. So, what Kyochi needs to see is only a part, and Tsukiko Kazuki separates these files and puts them on his desk every morning for easy viewing. Nothing too important. It is the situation at Sanagakure and Rain Shinobi Village. They have recently begun to open up the mountains, and they want to draw the water vapor from the Kingdom of Rain, and together with the water veins of the Kingdom of Rivers in the Kingdom of Birds, it is enough to irrigate part of the land in the northeast corner of the Kingdom of Wind. But the amount of the project is huge, and the materials and food pills consumed are huge figures. The Kingdom of the Wind simply cannot afford such a large demand. All these orders were taken by Konoha. The effect and price of mass-produced Bingliang pills are 70% of normal Bingliang pills. After the sale, the Nation of Wind quickly added orders, not only the Nation of Wind, but also the Nation of Thunder. Orders increased crazily, gradually replacing the output of their own country's Bingliang pills. But this information from Anbu shows that Shio has been researching Konoha's Bingliang Maru recently. After watching, Kyochi just smiled slightly. The effect is 70%, and there are 70% benefits. Although it is not as strong as normal Bingliang pills, in many cases, ninjas actually don't need the recovery amount of normal Bingliang pills. This price and effect are just enough. Chio wants to understand how Konoha can reduce the effect and cost. However, even if she wanted to break her head, she would never know that the raw materials of this thing are ripened with wood style, and she would never have thought that the cost of such a military grain pill in Konoha. In fact, it is only 40% of the normal Bingliang pill. Even the cost of normal military food pills is now only 80% of that of other countries. Kyochi put it aside. The strength of these ninja villages seems to be improving, but in fact their speed of improvement is far less than Konoha's progress now. But without money, would Kyochi dare to do this? The integration of ninja schools and research institutes are big money eaters. Without caravan operations, the operation of this set can only depend on the face of the daimyo. Nobles are often short-sighted. Kyochi doesn't expect much from them. The next few copies are about some trends of the water country in the east, which are similar to the information collected by Jiraiya, and the extra one is: there is a ninja secretly sneaked into the eastern front, suspected mist shinobi ninja Nakayoshi. According to the follow-up route, the opponent's target is Konoha. Kyoshi pulled the mechanism and reminded Tsukiko Kazuki that it didn't take long. Master Kyoshi. Shao, this is yesterday's information, isn't it delivered today? Kyoshi frowned. It is reasonable to say that such information should be sent every few hours. As a result, he only saw that Zhongji went ashore yesterday afternoon, and did not see other follow-up information. It's kind of weird, not quite Anbu's style. Moonlight Kazuki said. Normally, the information should be delivered this morning, but I haven't received the latest information scroll yet. Send someone to check to see if something went wrong. Is Mukai on a mission in the northeast? Yes. I'll go and see if something happened. Kyoshi didn't let them go. In addition to perception ability, Zhongji is also not weak in strength. Jonin definitely has it. On Konoha's side, 1 or 2 Anbu teams are equally strong. It is no problem to say that they can win Zhongji, but so far, no matter whether they win or not. No news at all. I'm afraid something went wrong. By the way, Master Kyoshi, the daimyo's side seems to want you to go too. Understood. Northeast coast. Mukai is leading his subordinates to follow a caravan. The goods brought by this caravan were all weapons smuggled out of the Iron Country, and the destination was the Water Country. Captain, should we follow? It's not convenient to hide at sea, and the opponent has a ninja squad. Forget it, go back. Mukai shook his head. His current subordinates had just joined Anbu not long ago. Although they were strong, their coordination and tacit understanding were more than a little off. It was not a wise move to rush into the sea. Just as he was about to evacuate, he sensed a fluctuation in space. Flying Thunder God? Mukai immediately took a step back. The others didn't understand, but in the next second, Kyoshi appeared in front of them. Grown-ups. Everyone, I have an important temporary task, come with me, and I will tell you the details on the way. Kyoshi didn't talk too much nonsense. No matter what the situation is over there, it is a big deal for Anbu to lose contact, and he must go to check the situation. He didn't think that Zhongji alone had that courage and ability. Without saying a word, Mukai followed immediately. 4 people followed behind. Kyoshi gave a general overview of the situation, and everyone's expressions were not very good looking. Anbu communicated regularly to ensure the safety of each other and the timeliness of information. I haven't contacted for so long, either there is a problem with them, or there is something wrong with the ninja used for communication. But no matter which one, all big things for Anbu. Mukai rolled his eyes and observed the surrounding situation to prevent them from being attacked suddenly, while another teammate of the Yamanaka clan began to use secret techniques to communicate. But no response. My lord, there is no response. I'll go first, you follow. After Kyoshi finished speaking, the figure had disappeared in the same place. The next second, everyone saw him appearing on a tree in the distance, and took a closer look. The figure turned into a floating shadow. Gone. Accelerate. The 4 speed up. But even if they increased their speed, they still couldn't catch up with Kyoshi, and soon even Mukai's eyes couldn't see Kyoshi's trace. Kyoshi left a mark, though. Although they lost track, they could still come all the way by following the signs. From the northeast border to that side, the distance is not too far, and it doesn't take much time to rush there at the speed of Kyoshi, and soon he rushed to the position of the Anbu team. No one. Anbu moved as little as possible. Kyoshi stretched out his fingers, used chakra perception to check the surrounding situation, and then quickly chased after the direction where chakra was sensed. Slight chakra fluctuations over there. Go all the way. This chakra fluctuation became more and more obvious, and he soon smelled a faint smell of blood. Really? Not so good. He rushed to the scene. Although it was dealt with here again, he could still feel the smell of blood, and there was still one alive underneath. Kyoshi flips him out with earth style, then heals with medical ninjutsu. This is from the Aburame clan. It seems that he escaped a catastrophe by using secret techniques. He faintly woke up. Grown-ups, what happened? Yes, someone attacked, and that mist ninja was robbed. In the end, he went to the east side, and my last bug died there. He spoke with difficulty and weakness. Take a rest first. Kyoshi patted him on the shoulder, and then chased in that direction. Listen to him. Obviously, they did have a fight with Zhongji, but this guy couldn't tell whether it was to catch him or the other party had another purpose. He was seriously injured, although he was basically out of danger after being treated by Kyoshi. It may not be easy to say that. Kyoshi sprints. All the way to the coast, footsteps, breath and chakra fluctuations are all lost, but He went straight overseas to chase. Kill him in Anbu team, and still want to leave like this? Instant water all the way. After a long time, he sensed 2 chakra breaths, one of which was chaotic and weak, obviously injured, while the other was stronger. Mist ninja. Not like. Kyochi hurried to catch up, and after a while, he saw a small boat. There was no one on board, but, see. Still want to escape from yourself? Ahead, to a small island, the opponent stopped. He carried Zhongji and looked back at the sea. With such a fast speed on the sea, you should be Senju Kyochi, who has recently become famous in Konoha, right? I thought you were stupid at first, but looking at it now, you're not only stupid, but you're also deaf, and you can mishear. Konoha rebelliously, I have your name on Anbu's list, and it seems that you can cross it out today. Isn't your surname Senju? Forget it, it doesn't matter. Are you in charge of Anbu? Then you should know about me. Don't tell me you're not interested in blood successor limit? Bei Luhu raised his hand, his face ferocious. Guiyala technique. The result of his lifelong research, however, the 3rd generation disagreed. Not only that, but also sent Jiraiya and others to hunt him down. If he hadn't escaped by luck, he might have died. Facing Kyochi. If it can be exchanged with words and benefits, he doesn't want to fight Kyochi. Blood successor boundary? Are you talking about this? Kyochi holds one finger. Next moment, the ice under Bailuhu's feet froze, and the hard ice froze his feet. The next moment, a vine grew and pulled Zhongji away from him. Bailuhu was stunned. This is ice escape, wood style. Impossible. How can you master 2 kinds of blood succession boundaries at the same time? You must have learned Gamaluo too. No, even Guimela can't master wood style. Could it be that Konoha restarted the year Hashirama cell experiments? Bailuhu was a little out of control, and the expression on his face became more and more crazy. He used ninjutsu to break free from the ice's shackles. Then, quickly formed a seal, and with a slap of the palm, the surrounding area suddenly exploded. Detonate the talisman array. Kyochi is surrounded by detonators. Obviously. This is one of Baruku's strongholds, and he is very well prepared here. However, after the explosion, Kyochi emerged unscathed from the flames he saw. Bailuhu held kunai in his hand and stepped forward. One strike. The opponent didn't dodge, but his kunai couldn't poke in again. This is Earth Spear? His heart sank. This guy has actually mastered Earth Spear ninjutsu to this level, which is really rare among Konoha ninjas. After several years of research, I really don't know enough about the outside world. This guy. What kind of technique will there be? Bailuhu has the idea of running away. He is not a ruthless person who fights to the death and never retreats for him. Only Guiyala can't give up, and everything else can be given up. Knowing that Kyochi is tough, he was about to run away, and he just happened to be contacted by someone recently. Certainly. Before that, he had to cause enough trouble for Kyochi. Buryuhu bit his finger, and quickly pressed the seal on the ground. In the next second, a huge summoning beast appeared. Completely stitched monsters. All kinds of gadgets are put together, although it looks terrifying, but upon careful observation, this deformed creature has no aesthetic feeling at all. Tear him apart, he said something coldly, and then made seals with both hands. Illusion. Kyochi watched him perform quietly, without much movement, as if controlled by illusion. The summoning beast rushed out, tearing Kyochi to pieces with ease. Bailuhu was stunned. This is wrong. Could it be? I was the one who got the illusion. As soon as his face changed, he immediately reacted and quickly resolved the illusion. The screen in front of me changes. Kyochi is right in front of him, playing with summoning mon with one hand. Yes. It can't be called fighting, it can only be called playing. Your strength is a little weaker than I imagined. I kind of understand why you are so crazy. If your goal is Jiraiya and the others, it is really difficult to catch up with you in your state. Kyochi sighed. This guy is a talented researcher, but unfortunately, he is too crazy. That kind of experimentation and art, even Kyochi can't tolerate it. Ghost Bud Luo. A deformed ninjutsu, not even as good as Yakushi Kabuto's cell transplant. Her heart sank and she completely lost her resolve to fight Kyochi. This guy, terrible. He is not an enemy but he can deal with it all. His strength is far above his own, even stronger than Jiraiya and Orochimaru. He made mudras with his hands, and the earth shook. Dirty river. The rolling mud flowed down, hiding a pile of detonating symbols, all of which rushed towards Kyochi and Nakayoshi. At the same time, Bailuhu had already used Shadow Clone, and his real body hid in the soil to escape. Kyochi didn't bother him at all. This guy doesn't matter because he already has the flying thunder god mark on him, and he's chasing something more important now. White Zetsu. Really? Madara and Black Zetsu have been very restless recently, they can be seen everywhere. Kyochi found that it was Beiruhu who made the shot, and this side was close to the country of water, so he secretly observed whether it was possible that White Zetsu was also nearby. So, it was his wood clone who played with Beiruhu all the time, and the real body has actually been concealed with the help of the celestial being chakra and wood style, just now. He discovers the breath of White Zetsu beneath the island. White Zetsu. How can I let him escape this time? Kyochi is escaping in the earth, and with the blessing of the Rishi chakra, his speed is very fast. White Zetsu just watched a hidden and weird chakra's breath shuttle through the soil, from behind to directly in front of him, and then... punch. Boom. The bottom of the sea broke, and huge waves broke out on the sea surface, rolling out a tsunami. Beiruhu, who was running for his life, was stunned. What's the situation ahead? Who is fighting? What the hell? Besides him, Kyochi, and the unconscious Nakayoshi, is there anyone else here? Beiruhu can no longer be earth-styled. The chakra that was chaotic and terrifying in front of him almost overturned the part of the island leading to the kingdom of water, and he didn't even know who caused this force. Fleeing back quietly, he saw a terrible tsunami. This is caused by the aftermath of unknown ninjutsu. What kind of technique is this? Beiruhu was dumbfounded. He took a careful look at Kyochi, who had escaped from the island in the distance, and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Kanda Kyochi is also there. This guy even forgot his own existence. Such power is indeed beyond the reach of human beings. Ninja should be like this. Beiruhu felt envious. However, in the next second, his expression was directly dull. An absolutely unbelievable person in Beiruhu emerged from the sea, holding a strange-shaped creature in his hand. It looked like a human being, but it only had half of its body left. The point is, why Kanda Kyochi? This one. Is it a clone? Beiruhu's mind went blank, and then he thought of a clone technique that existed in books. Wood clone. Only wood clone can fight at this level without disappearing, or the opponent is already so strong that he can't break through the defense at all. Beiruhu naturally hoped for the former. Why haven't you run away yet? Forget it. Save me from looking for you again, come with me, Konoha prison welcomes you. Kyochi is holding White Zetsu. Originally, I just came to find out about Enbu's disappearance, but accidentally squatted on a White Zetsu, which was really a pleasant surprise, but it's a pity that White Zetsu also self-destructed decisively. He only got half of his body. Beiruhu looked at Kyochi and the White Zetsu in his hand, then at the half-collapsed island and Kyochi's avatar beside him, and fell into a long silence. Hit? Gui Yaluo's unfinished self may not be able to withstand the opponent's punch. Do not. Even if Gui Yaluo is completed, can he really withstand this blow? He has no idea. I have a question. I'm in a good mood today. Since you didn't run away and saved me Chakra's face, I can give you a chance to ask questions. While making the seal, Kyochi replied to Beiruhu. Beiruhu was silent for a moment, and asked, what kind of ninjutsu was that just now? It's hard to explain to you, but it's essentially a ninjutsu punch. It's not a big deal. The main reason is that the opponent is too slippery and needs to be fast. Ninjutsu is useless. The seal is complete. The flesh and blood cells of White Zetsu are definitely what Orochimaru wants most now. This time, he should be able to kill Orochimaru and let him work for him for more than 10 years. Hope he can figure out a way to trace back the Gedo statue. Beiruhu was in complete despair. Punch. Is this really human? Okay. That's enough for your question, come with me. The first half of the sentence is still far away, and the second half of the sentence is already in the ear. Beiruhu forgot to struggle for a moment. Too fast. Such a speed. It's not something I can deal with at all. I'm afraid this guy was just playing with himself with his avatar before. Just as he plays with his summoning beast. Following Kyochi, Beiruhu's mind went blank. He wanted to escape, but when he thought of Kyochi's terrifying strength, his original confidence in Onimura disappeared. Punch? Perhaps Kanda Kyochi's words were a bit deceitful, but wood style, ice done, and the power of that blow were all clearly laid out in front of him. Look back. Most of the island collapsed, and his base was a joke in front of the opponent. The other is, what the hell is that white half of the body? Why is it under its temporary base? What's the matter? Beiruhu looked bewildered. He just went out to find a ninja who possessed the blood succession limit, and planned to come back and test it with Gui Yaluo. As a result, he fished himself in. Kyochi had no intention of keeping him. This guy is different from Orochimaru. Orochimaru likes to pursue what he wants, but whether to follow the rules in the process depends on whether he can meet his needs. And Kyochi didn't know when this kid's desire would end. Yesterday, he could be jealous of Sanin and go to study Guila. Tomorrow, maybe they will secretly study impure world reincarnation or other more terrifying forbidden techniques for stronger power. Not to mention, now it is enough to prove that Madara and Black Zetsu are already thinking about various aspects in order to resurrect, searching for more whole cards. God knows if this guy will be rescued if he is locked up in the research institute. This kind of person cannot be kept. Kyochi's heart is like a mirror. Bailuhu knew that he had gone to Konoha, and there was absolutely no way out, so he gradually recovered his sanity at this time, and quickly said, "The sacrifices of those people before are worth it. My experiment is successful. I can give you Guila. As long as you absorb 5 blood inheritance boundaries, you can live forever. Don't you feel tempted?" Buryuhu was very excited. Immortality was gradually discovered by him after researching Onigara. Now that the basic experiment has been successful, it is only about to be implemented at the end, but he meets a ruthless character like Kyochi. He is really not reconciled. After hearing this, Kyochi thought for a moment. Bailuhu said quickly, "You have Senju's blood, but even Senju Hashirama couldn't live forever. As long as you live, you can better protect Konoha, right?" "Sorry, I was distracted just now, but I still heard what you said. I think you made a mistake in one thing." Kyochi cancels clone. At this moment, he has sensed the position of Mukai and the others, and the Anbu team has arrived, but it seems that they don't need their help here. He cut the long story short and looked at Belyuho. Eternal life, if you think about it carefully, it's really boring. There is only one person, and if you live from now to the future, maybe your memory, emotions, etc. will slowly wear out over the years. After living for hundreds of years, am I still me? Am I still me? I haven't thought about it. Kyochi's question is too philosophical. What live hundreds of years? All these years, what he has always wanted is to surpass Sanin and get what he wants, and immortality is just something that Guila discovered incidentally in his research. You obviously believe my criticism now. In fact, I don't believe what I said. If you can live for hundreds of years, why don't you live for a few hundred years? The problem is that your eternal life has no logic. Kyochi smiled. He saw Haruka's face was ugly. Can you live forever by fusing 5 blood successors? What is the logic? Did some kind of mutation occur in the boundaries of the 5 blood successors, leading to an evolutionary upgrade of the human body? If Orochimaru knew that he had to die laughing in the research institute, and that immortality is so easy, he would have achieved immortality long ago. Where do I need to keep thinking about it? Even if it's doable. The essence of Guila is stitching, and it is still very far away from the real fusion. This is the same as the fusion of soil and water into wood style. Not having both and mastering all of them is considered a fusion. The fusion of 5 ninjutsu, in a real sense, is no less difficult than yin-yang done. With that kung fu, just study yin-yang escape directly. So, Kyochi doesn't think much of Oniyara in his heart. This technique is very evil. The state of Bailuhu in the anime is already very different from that of humans, and many blood succession limit boundary escape techniques can actually be mastered through learning. Such as magnet style. There is also the more terrifying Shueiji elimination, dust done. Onoki was born with dust escape. Do not. He learned it on his own. So, for this kind of thing, torturing himself to be neither human nor ghost, will also cause endless internal turmoil. Why stay? Bailuhu didn't feel manic after hearing this, but just remained silent with a calm expression. He knew that he and Kyochi were not in the same way, but he had to admit that some aspects of what Kyochi said made sense, which made him hesitate. Can the simple fusion of 5 kinds really lead to eternal life? It's not that simple. He was dragged by Kyochi like a dead person, and after a while he said, "You think Kamara is not worth it, just because you are a genius, you can't understand the pain of us ordinary talents. I don't like Onigara, but if you know anything, I changed the mechanism of the Konoha Shinobi School, so that many commoner ninjas can learn more ninjutsu and knowledge." Kyochi said lightly, "As for the limit of blood succession, I learned wood style and ice escape by myself. There are many people in Konoha who are trying to learn, but you only want to use one technique to directly take it for yourself. Do you still think you were right? You can say what you want." Belyuhu didn't speak anymore. At this time, Mukai and the others had already arrived. "My lord, just now. I didn't feel right when I tracked it down. I found something. I'll talk about it when I go back. This guy is Konoha who is fleeing and rebelling. Let's go back and let Mr. Hokage prepare for a public trial." Helyuhu. This is it. Mukai was surprised. Buryuhu's name is quite high on Anbu's wanted list, so everyone knows him and knows that he once escaped from Sanin's pursuit. But did not expect, looks surprisingly young. Master Kyochi, please escort this level of traitorous ninja yourself. If something goes wrong, we will not be able to apologize even if we commit suicide. Mukai quickly shook his head and refused. Among the ninjas in this team, the Aburame family and the Yamanaka family are from the root team, and the fourth person is a rookie with little experience at all. In case the two have problems or are bewitched, he may not be able to completely restrain them. Certainly. Naturally, these words cannot be said in the open. When Beiluhu heard that he was escorted by others, he also had some thoughts in his heart. But soon, on Kyochi, a clone emerged. This clone technique. Sure enough, it is wood style. It's okay, I'll let the avatar follow you, and you take it back to Konoha. As for Mist Shinobi, I'll take it away first. Yes. Mukai looked serious. The condition of Mist Ninja is indeed more important than that of Hellahu. This guy crossed the sea and came to the land of fire, and he probably wanted to tell Konoha with very important information. Although he is out of danger, he has not yet awakened. Taking it home for care is the best choice. Kyochi nodded slightly, and Flying Thunder God disappeared. There are quite a few Rishi Chakra in his wood-style clone, unless Uchiha Madara comes in person, in a sense, with his oxygen tank. Otherwise, he is confident that there are not many people in Konoha who are his avatar's opponents. Including Onoki. With the blessing of Sage Mode, even Onoki's dust escape, the speed of the dust escape is the biggest flaw. Even if it is just a clone, it is difficult for him to attack. Kyochi returns to Konoha with Nikiyoshi. After a long trip back and forth, Chakra is really exhausted, but fortunately Tsunade is waiting in Anbu. How about it? He was captured by us, but Belayuhu ran out, killed one of our squads, and took him away. He might be gone later. Give it to me. When Tsunade heard Hiraku's name, he immediately looked serious, thinking that Kyochi had just experienced a big battle, and hurriedly signaled him to rest first. Kyochi handed the person to her, then ate a Bingliang pill, and took out another scroll. What is this? Tsunade paused. Could it be Ghost Yala technique? No, I discovered it when I was tracking Beluhu. This guy is hiding underground with strange life characteristics. I wanted to catch him, but he also self-destructed. Fortunately, I am stronger. Half of the body, but strangely, this half of the body is still highly active. Tsunade observed carefully and quickly thought of Hashirama's cells. She looked up in surprise. This physique is not the same as Chakra. No, it's not the same, but it's too similar. It feels like a similar cell cultivated by some means. Yeah, I find it weird too. Kyochi, I'll come to Nakayoshi, and you can arrange its affairs. Kyochi and Tsunade have a mutual understanding. Zhongji is of course important, but at present, it is the most critical to figure out the origin of this cell, and Orochimaru is an expert in this regard. Kyochi regained some strength, extracted some chakra, and went to the research institute. When you arrive at the institute, instead of basking in the sun, Orochimaru was studying a snake. How about it? Well, I haven't made much progress, but there are some gains. Hey, you've been looking for me so frequently recently, don't you have any topics? I'm afraid I don't have time recently. Orochimaru frowned. This matter is more important, and you must be interested. Saying that, Kyochi carefully took out the scroll. Unseal it from inside and take out the cells of white Zetsu. Orochimaru didn't pay attention to it at first, but after sensing it, he came over instantly. This kind of treasure, how can you throw it out at will? Kyochi-kun, as a researcher, you were too unprofessional. Orochimaru was heartbroken to death. He immediately took out the culture bottle and stored the viable cells in it, and then checked it over and over again, tisk-tisk in his mouth. If I'm not mistaken, it should be born out of Hashirama cells, but the structure is rather weird, incredible creatures. Kyochi-kun, please explain the situation in detail. What fairy art? All set aside. The activity of this kind of cells is lower than that of Hashirama cells, and it may be able to be transplanted as a life-extending medicine. Orochimaru was overwhelmed with excitement. Look, I said you'd be interested. Kyochi smiled. But let him speak carefully. He couldn't say too much, because the actual situation was that after he punched down, the opponent wanted to self-destruct, and only half of the punch was taken. It's a strange cell, this kind of constitution. At first it felt like Hashirama cells, but after careful study, there are still differences. How did this happen? Orochimaru felt incredible. He has also studied Hashirama cells, and he has a relatively right to speak on Hashirama cells. This thing. To put it bluntly, it took Konoha more than 10 years to reach this level, otherwise there would not be so many experiments and only one Yamato survived. And he had no idea how it was cultivated. What about the aggressiveness of Hashirama cells? Why on top of it it just disappeared? Orochimaru was full of doubts, but the process of Kyochi's fight with this guy was so brief that he deeply suspected that this guy was pretending. But there is no evidence. I just thought of one thing. Orochimaru took the little bit of cells that he cut out and studied them over and over again, wishing to implant them in someone for experiments immediately, but he couldn't use people as experiments because he studied all the regulations. We had to use artificially cultivated ninja beasts. He is very busy. Now that Kyochi is next to him, he wants to be manipulated but can't speak, so he can only hint with impatience in words, hoping that he has something to say, and if he has nothing to do, get out of here. Don't delay doing your own research. I did think of one thing. Before Mukai fought against Uchiha Ji, he mentioned to me one thing. He used Gentle Fist to seal the acupuncture point, but it failed. Huh? Interesting. You mean, Uchiha Yuki may have transplanted this cell? When chatting with smart people, you don't have to explain too clearly. At the beginning, Orochimaru figured it out for himself. While catching a ninja beast that had been cultivated so hard, he skillfully took out the tools to transplant the cells. While thinking about it, he said after a while, it's not impossible. Self-destruction should be to hide this special cell, so it can explain. Oh, I'm a little curious, what is the function of this cell? If you're curious, why don't you try to catch someone? Orochimaru licked his lips. The best choice, of course, is Uchiha. Control variables as much as possible. Only in this way can better conclusions be drawn. However, Kyochi shook his head. How could it be possible to start this way? Not to mention, what is the function of this thing? How can he not know? The output of the sacred tree must be fine. The effect is not as good as a perfect Hashirama cell, but it is more compatible, and it does not backfire on itself like a Hashirama cell. According to Kyochi, conversion understanding is. This thing is that Madara dilutes a cell from Senju Hashirama to the size of a person, and when they retransplant, it is equivalent to using a diluted version. The backlash effect is naturally lower. Unfortunately, doing research. It's just slower. The effect can be achieved, at least it must be guaranteed to be harmless to the human body. It can be removed perfectly without damage, and the other party is purely voluntary, otherwise neither I nor the village will allow it. After Kyochi finished speaking, Orochimaru just shrugged and said nothing. He also made complaints and tried it out. Can't pull it down. Orochimaru continued to do his own research. This cell was more interesting to him than Sage Mode. He observed it and basically confirmed that it was born out of Hashirama cells. Kyochi stood up, ready to leave. Orochimaru suddenly thought of something and asked, according to what you said before, this guy has a strong concealment ability and can hide in the depths of the earth. How did you find it? This is also thanks to your good friend Bailuhu. To reiterate, I'm not good friends with him. The relationship can only be said to be okay. Our research concepts are also different. That guy's method of researching forbidden technique is too rough. Orochimaru said lightly. He didn't ask Bailuhu's result. Kyochi went there himself. He must have been caught, otherwise this kid wouldn't have come back. What a shame. That guy's temporary base is an island with a relatively narrow range, and I used a little trick to hide myself, but it didn't find me. Kyochi said it briefly. I didn't mention one important point, but Orochimaru basically understood it. This kid is silent, and wood style, hiding, and perception have made great progress and improvements. Hateful. Orochimaru was a little annoyed, but soon calmed down. Kyochi wasn't a little bit ahead of him, but in a blink of an eye, before Orochimaru could react, the kid was dangling in front of him. So, he doesn't have a strong comparison mentality, he just thinks that Kyochi will call people. If all the tasks entrusted to him by Kyochi were done by this kid himself, the time to be wasted would probably be multiplied, and the same goes for various topics in the institute. Most of the topics were proposed by Kyochi, obviously. He didn't have time by himself, so he set up a research institute and asked others to help him conquer it. In the end, everyone was very happy. I really feel like I created a ninjutsu. Well, Orochimaru sighed inwardly. A group of tool people, what is there to be proud of? Do your own research on wood style. One case of successful transplantation. This guy directly deduced from theory and data, reproduced wood style himself, and successfully promoted it so that many people have mastered wood style ninjutsu. Not even the low-profile version. I want to study immortals. Result, this guy walked in front of him again, and before he started researching, the other party had conclusive conclusions and results. He felt like he was living in Kyochi's shadow. After Kyochi left, he looked at these cells and felt a little emotional in his heart, but he quickly put those emotions behind him and began to study with concentration. At least, this guy can bring himself away to unravel the unknown. Kyochi went back to sleep. Long-distance flying thunder god came back with a Zhongji, and even he couldn't bear the consumption. But there is good news, too. Complete the Sage Mode tutorial. Evaluation. Good, reward. Sage Art Frog Kumite. Kyochi doesn't know whether Jiraiya or Minato completed the study, but it took so few days to master it, and the speed is not bad. After all, I have system rewards, and it took a lot of time to fully grasp the current level. It is normal for them to spend more time. After waking up, Kyochi is free to claim his reward. Frog Team. After watching it, Kyochi has to admire Toad Sage. Mount Myoboku Senjutsu is truly a masterpiece. Take Frog Kusho as an example. This is a form of sage art that is more akin to harnessing natural energy. For Kyochi, the theoretical knowledge it comes with is more useful than surgery. If he can grasp the use of natural energy at a deeper level, he can integrate it into knife technique, slashing, or even into empty palm and acupuncture. After receiving the experience, he assigned a shadow clone and let him be in charge of overcoming the research, and then went out to Anbu. The matter of Zhongji and Bailuhu has not been resolved yet. When he came to Anbu, he heard a lot of good news. Bailuhu was sent back, and now he is locked in Anbu's prison, surrounded by sealing techniques. Outsiders will inevitably touch the seal if they want to enter. Also, Nakayoshi wakes up. What hurts Tsunade's balls is, this guy only recognizes Kyochi, and doesn't recognize her as Hokage. It's because Kirigakure's accident happened. The kid himself is not in a hurry, and Tsunade doesn't need to make a fuss for him. So she didn't let anyone wake Kyochi up at all. Even bringing Kyochi to work, she was still angry, and said angrily, "That kid is not in a hurry, and we are not in a hurry. Let's do something else beforehand, and delay him for a few days." Sister, are you serious? Kyochi can't figure out if Nakiyoshi got kicked in the head by a donkey or something. Why do you believe in yourself so much? Tsunade was annoyed. It's not because of Zhongji's attitude, but because he speaks for himself, which is not as effective as Kyochi. She took a deep breath, and then said, "Let's go now, ask, and find out what's going on. I suspect that Kirigakure may really have something to do with that organization." Hey, there's no need to be so anxious. That cell has just begun to be studied, but it can be confirmed that its source is Shodai's cell. Kyochi didn't follow his words. Didn't you see my sister was angry? Moreover, wouldn't it be nice if Kirigakure was in chaos for a few more days? Zhongji is not in a hurry. What are they in a hurry for? That's weird. Grandfather's cells are secrets in Konoha. How did they get lost? Could it be Orochimaru or Danzo? No, they don't do this kind of thing. Tsunade looked serious. The source of the white creature was Hashirama cells. She had guessed this before, but she couldn't believe it. Now the facts are in front of her eyes. Here comes the problem. She believes that Danzo is not a good thing, but she feels that Danzo is still a little bit persistent. At least the Hashirama cells cannot come from him. More than that, according to my speculation, Uchiha Ji may also have transplanted this kind of cells, rather than the so-called breakthrough that is about to reach the Mangekyo level. Otherwise he would not need to self-destruct at all. Transplanted this kind of cells. Tsunade frowned. She couldn't figure out what the two had in common, but felt that Kyochi's guess was unassailable. One is Uchiha Yuki's decision to self-destruct. Second, Mukai discovered a different variant of chakra, and acupuncture did not work. Both prove that there is something wrong with Yuki Uchiha. The diluted Hashirama cells obtained in this way seem to fulfill such speculations, so. Here comes the problem. Is there any connection between Sharingan and first-generation cells? Is it possible? Tsunade hesitated. For such a critical question, she really had the idea of experimenting, but after thinking about Kyochi's painstaking efforts, she held back the second half of the sentence. Experimentation is impossible. And Hashirama cells, Sharingan, etc. are only guesses at present, and the situation is still unknown. It is indeed too extreme to use experiments directly. These are just conjectures, and based on the situation in the Uchiha period, it is possible that the Sharingan's power will indeed accumulate to a certain extent before it will react. Experiments will not work. It makes sense, I'm being superficial. Tsunade thought for a while, and had to admit that Kyochi was more considerate. Sharingan has Mangekyo, in case this change needs to reach Mangekyo to appear. It is useless to do the experiment. In the current Uchiha, no one reaches the Mangekyo level. These are just speculations. If it is true, the identity of the enemy behind it may be very terrifying. After all, from before to now, There are very few people who know enough about Uchiha and have the opportunity to come into contact with Hashirama cells. I don't know anything about what happened back then, and I don't know if you have heard Nidem mention it. Kyochi didn't say any more when he said this. Tsunade understood what he meant. She was silent for a few seconds. The battle between Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama is an indelible stroke in the history of Konoha, and the two statues are still standing in the Valley of the End. If it was him, everything seemed to make sense. Nobody knows Uchiha and Sharingan better than Madara, and it's entirely possible he could get Hashirama cells. The only thing that doesn't make sense is, why didn't he die then? Tsunade frowned, recalled for half a minute, and then said with certainty, Grandfather and the others are very sure that Madara is dead. Logically speaking, it cannot be him. Well, let me collect information again. There is no need for experiments at this stage, and we can't start with this. After saying that, Kyochi got up and stretched. I'm going to see Zhongji. By the way, don't forget the daimyo, that guy. Also has a lot of ideas recently. You can deal with it. If it doesn't work, you can give some conditions. Clear. Kyochi waved. What do you want to do? It is nothing more than forming his own ninja team, especially now that Konoha is getting stronger. His mood is probably more urgent. But when he actually formed a team, he realized that ninjas were not so easy to lead. Kyochi came to Konoha Hospital. Nakayoshi's ward is the innermost one, which is at the confidential level, and only Konoha's senior management is eligible to enter. In a sense, even the current Mitokado Homura is not qualified to enter here to investigate. He comes here. Seeing him, Zhongji got out of bed excitedly. Master Kyochi. Wait, we don't seem to know each other that well. If you have something to say, don't come here. Kyochi waved his hand. Nakayoshi nodded his head heavily, then took a deep breath to suppress the excitement in his heart, then froze for a few seconds, and said irritably, I don't know how to explain to you. Third Mizukage was manipulated. Ah. This. How do you know? Zhongji widened his eyes. Few people in Kirigakure know about Third Mizukage being manipulated, and Kanda Kyochi. Have you already guessed it? Did Yagura deliver it? Kyochi asked again. Zhongji will think of himself. It is only possible that Yagura found out that he could not handle this matter, otherwise he would not have sent Zhongji over. Or Zhongji escaped by himself. Master Yagura was taken away when he returned, and now he has become a Jinchuriki. He told me before that if something happens to him after he returns, he will come to Konoha to find you. He is sure that I will help. What good do I have? Yagura became Jinchuriki when he went back. This was unexpected. In most ninja villages, Jinchuriki is hardly a cage, and when Yagura became Three Tails Jinchuriki in the anime, he was actually Mizukage of Kirigakure. It's different now. Third Mizukage wasn't dead, and he wasn't exactly Mizukage either. If the sequence is different, the result will be completely different. Madara is still Madara, with sophisticated means. Kyochi thought in his heart, and at the same time pulled up a chair and sat down, and said lightly, what can we gain by helping you? You are not even Kirigakure's orthodox, and now you may be Kirigakure's rebellious ninja. Zhongji's expression was dull. He had a lot of arguments in his mind, but he didn't expect that Kyochi blocked the way from the very beginning, and analyzed the situation so thoroughly that he had nothing to say. Why don't you think about it? How about joining my Konoha? Kirigakure is already rotten, but our Konoha is thriving, and we have enough tolerance. Kyochi smiled. Nakayoshi is also a talent. Aside from his special blood successor Gaikai, his excellent perception ability and water-style ninjutsu can be used as Jonin in Konoha. Are you kidding me? Zhongji didn't know what to say for a while, so he just choked out this sentence. Do I seem to be joking? You and Konoha are not related. Why should I help you? After solving the civil strife in your Mist Shinobi, don't Konoha have one more competitor? Kyochi said flatly. Zhongji said hesitantly, is there no other way? Or, you come up with enough conditions to entrust Konoha to help with things, and there must be a formal contract, otherwise we will not be able to help. Kyochi said. Zhongji understood. Benefit. He was originally prepared, but he was first intercepted by Konoha's Anbu team, and later attacked by an unknown enemy, and now he is completely clean. By the way, you may have to settle your medical bills. Do you know who saved you? The fourth Hokage of Konoha, Master Tsunade, who is famous in the ninja world, otherwise you might be dead by now. Good guy. I'm still in arrears? Zhongyoshi couldn't turn his head around, looked around, and said, where's my ninja bag? What ninja bag? When I found you, I was in a temporary stronghold on a deserted island. I didn't see any ninja bag. My stuff is over there. Well, I don't have any money now, but I'm in Kirigakure. Forget it, like you said, I might already be a renegade in Kirigakure. When Zhongji said this, he was silent for a while. Both he and Yagura are for Kirigakure, but now, Yagura has somehow become Jinchuriki, and he was forced to flee, and now he has become a traitor. What to do? I have another plan here. Please tell me. Zhongji sighed. He is poor and white now, and it is good that he is not dead in Konoha. How can there be more room for asking? It can only be seen what Kyochi wants to ask. Think about it. You are actually the one who is just and wants to save Kirigakure. Now you can hide your name. Now we Konoha are making money as teachers, and when the time is right, we will entrust Konoha to help you. How about it? How else? But I'm a missed shinobi. Zhongji was stunned. Teacher, such a crucial position, should he be appointed? As I said, Konoha adheres to the will of first generation. Our philosophy is tolerance. Even if you are a ninja from missed shinobi, you can still find a suitable position in Konoha. Am I concerned about this question? The corner of Zhongji's mouth twitched. His ninjutsu and skills all come from Kirigakure. If he becomes a teacher here, wouldn't he really be a traitor? That can't be helped. I'll have to send you back when Kirigakure puts up the wanted list for traitorous ninja. I actually quite like being a teacher, understood? Zhongji nodded, he figured it out. If you don't agree, don't think of going out of this door today. Maybe you will be sent to Anbu in Konoha next time. The Yamanaka clan in Konoha can dig out information even from the head of a dead person, let alone a living person like him. Until then, not only can I not save Kirigakure and Yagura, but I may not be able to survive or die. After he nodded, he hesitated for a moment, looked at Kyochi and asked, My lord, I have a question. Aren't you afraid that I will escape or steal Konoha's information? You can try. Kyochi had a smile on his face, nothing threatening, but more useful than any threatening words. He believes. When Zhongyoshi understands the configuration of ninja school, there will be no such luck. Zhongji didn't understand at first. After Kyochi went out, he didn't follow up with him, but simply told him to wait here. He's almost healed from his injuries. After waiting for a while, someone finally came. He looked up. Third Hokage? You are the new teacher that Kyochi mentioned. Yes, our school just lacks a better water style teacher. Third generation nodded with a smile. Konoha has a strong water style, but it is rare to see a strong water style and a relatively leisurely style. Isn't Zhongji the best tool person? 3. Sir Third Hokage. I'm just an ordinary ninja school teacher now. Let's go. I'll take you to visit the ninja school. You will definitely change your mind about our ninja school in Konoha, and fall in love with it from now on. Third generation narrowed his eyes with a smile. Zhongji, right? Come to Konoha Shinobi School and want to go back to Kirigakure? If he let him go back, then he will not be called Sarutobi Hiruzen, and change his name to Kyochi from then on. Third generation slander. He led Zhongji to the hospital to issue an IOU. To be frank, Zhongji looked at the bill. Not only did he not have the idea of being cheated, but instead had a feeling. Tsunade-sama only has such a small amount of money. Konoha's hospital is really very conscientious. The price is really not expensive. In their Kirigakure hospital, it was the price of a medical ninja jonin. If the Kirigakure hospital knew about it, they would scold Tsunade for suppressing the price. But, even so, he is poor and white now, and he will probably have to pay for this bill for many years. Nakajima is numb. Unexpectedly, the road to save Ninja Village has not yet begun, and it seems to have gone astray. What needs to be considered now is not how to save Kirigakure, but how to get out of Konoha. Come to Konoha Shinobi School. Zhongji saw a vast campus, which occupies a huge area, almost 3 or 4 times the size of their Kirigakure school. The key is, it wasn't like this when I came here before. Zhongji was stunned for a few seconds. Master Third Generation, may I ask what this is? I remember coming to Konoha before, and what I saw was not like this. Oh, I just got a new school done recently, moved a bit, and you know, that brat in Kyochi messed around all day and made the school not enough. Good guy. Show off in front of them, but after finishing the work, he directly expands the school and walks in front of them again. Konoha is playing dirty. He was speechless for a moment, waited for a few seconds, saw the third generation walking to the front, and hurried to follow. Zhongji found Konoha's ninja school design is very unique. 3 training grounds. In addition, the teaching building is also partitioned, separated by avenues in the middle, and the difference can be clearly seen. Could it be? Konoha's students are also divided into different types? Third generation. You can just call me the principal. I'm no longer Hokage. I always call me third generation, which makes me feel old. Yes, Mr. Principal. May I ask what kind of students I want to teach? Zhangji asked. A lot of information can be extracted from this point, and again, this is also his most concerned issue. Who to teach? If you teach a group of brats, it would be really annoying. Oh, don't worry. What you want to teach is the Genin water style special training class. You just need to give some pointers on water style. It's very simple. Third generation said with a smile. Genin. Water style special training class? Zhangji had a bad feeling. It's not that Genin is difficult to teach, on the contrary, there are quite a few smart young Genin, who are much easier to teach than ordinary students. The issue is, smart students have to increase the upper limit of the content they want to teach. I'm afraid it's not to reveal the secrets of the village. He is a little distressed. Don't worry, it doesn't involve ninjutsu. We won't force you to teach Kirigakure's ninjutsu, but we already have some jutsu, so it won't affect it? Actually, it still has an impact. Zhangji couldn't help but said. Konoha has now mastered mist shinobi technique and silent assassination. According to third generation, he is not allowed to divulge some knowledge of the mist shinobi technique. Ha ha ha, you are the teacher, and you have the right to decide whether to teach or not. Don't worry too much, we Konoha are not some big villains. Third generation smiled. Jonin is not that easy to fool, so neither he nor Kyoshi intends to let Nakayoshi teach Kirigakure unique ninjutsu. But this guy created it himself, so it's not listed here. So, take your time, don't rush. Yes, I'm very sorry. No problem. The third generation continued on, bringing Nakayoshi to the edge of the Konoha Shinobi School. Zhangji pointed to the next door and asked curiously, what department is this? The guard is responsible for the security management of the village. Quote. Zhangji understood. What the hell? No wonder Kyoshi is reckless. Next door is the guard. If he is assigned to the ninja school, he will take the lead and run away? By the way, you don't have a place to live yet. At present, our school has a dormitory for teachers, so you can live in the school. Yes. House arrest in disguise, but Kyoshi still couldn't find fault, and he went to Kyoshi to no avail. Because the other party also has something to say. You are rebellious. Where else do you want to go? Can only say. Are you really going to arrange him in the ninja school? Are you not afraid that he will make trouble in the ninja school? Jiraiya was puzzled. He really can't understand the place where an enemy arranged a ninja school. It's really big-hearted. So what he was given was the Genin special training class. What he can come into contact with is actually the Genin who has mastered the water style, and he will only come into contact with it when he learns the water style. Kyoshi explained. Jiraiya froze for a few seconds after hearing this. In that case. Seems to be fine. Our Konoha water style has many types, but there is still a big gap with Kirigakure in terms of specialization and application, especially low-level ninjutsu. I hope these students can squeeze out all his knowledge. Konoha water style is strong. But the most powerful ninjutsu are above B-level difficulty, and there are very few practical and powerful ninjutsu below B-level, but Kirigakure is different. They can play a C-level ninjutsu, which shows that Kirigakure is not weak in terms of low-level water style. This is what Konoha desperately needs. Then Kirigakure, what are you going to do? Just wait. I don't know what happened to 3rd Mizukage and Yagura. Let him stay in the village first. What if you want someone later? Jiraiya is a little worried. After all, Nakayoshi is Kirigakure's ninja. No matter what Kirigakure calls him a traitor or something, Konoha has nothing to say, and I'm afraid there will be some entanglements at that time. Kyoshi asked strangely. Didn't Nakayoshi be captured by Beiruhu? What does it have to do with Konoha? What you said makes sense. Jiraiya had nothing to say. Actually, he also understood that Kyoshi didn't want to do anything to Kirigakure, but that he didn't know the reality of Kirigakure at all, and Nakayoshi's identity was not qualified enough for Konoha to deal with Kirigakure. Have to wait. Wait for Kirigakure to find someone with sufficient qualifications. Since Yagura found something wrong, it must be more than just Zhangji, and there must be other filing plans in the future. Afterwards, he couldn't help thinking of Bailuhu, and immediately sighed softly. Bailuhu and he used to be teammates, however. Later, he began to study the Guila technique, and since then he parted ways, wandering around for so many years, and was finally caught back. I'm going to see that guy. Jiraiya is often unreliable, but he is very thorough when it comes to right and wrong, and he will not bend the law for personal gain. If Orochimaru, then you can't tell, so. If it was Orochimaru who made the request, Kyoshi's answer would most likely be no. Jiraiya chatted with Bailuhu for a while. Kyoshi didn't eavesdrop, but seeing his sad and complicated expression when he came out, it was clear that he and Bailuhu had nothing to talk about. Kyoshi, I must thank you. He came out and bowed deeply. Kiyoshi was caught off guard and a bit puzzled at the same time. You are. Well, to tell you the truth, when I saw Hiruhu, I felt as if I saw Orochimaru who was stepping into the deeper darkness with Danzo. Jiraiya sighed and said with mixed emotions, Orochimaru is not a good person. As long as he can achieve his goal, he may not care too much about many things. He is similar to Hellahu in some respects. You know Orochimaru well. Kiyoshi smiled. The original Jiraiya didn't know Orochimaru that well. The Jiraiya in the anime may still feel Orochimaru as a partner. People change. In particular, Orochimaru himself is not a good guy. With Danzo stuffing things on the side, he will be a ghost if he can control it. Jiraiya couldn't help laughing at himself when he said this. I haven't succeeded in many things in my life. For Orochimaru, I only realized it later. Including Sage Mode. If it weren't for you, I might have mastered that level in my life. Why did you suddenly become depressed? Kiyoshi was caught off guard. But, Jiraiya masters Sage Mode. Not really a surprise. His foundation was already very high before, but the coordination between his body and natural energy was not enough. Combined with some secret methods of wet bone forest, he could indeed go a step further. But isn't this a good thing? You should know how I signed the Mount Myoboku contract, right? Jiraiya felt that Tsunade must have told Kiyoshi, so without waiting for his answer, he continued talking to himself. Actually, I bumped into Mount Myoboku by mistake, and the great Toad Sage said that it was fate for me to go to Mount Myoboku destined. Destiny. What's that saying? Kiyoshi naturally expected it a long time ago. To be honest, he is not too cold about the magic stick and toad, but now he is not very clear about Jiraiya's thoughts. Therefore, he decided to take another look. Well, that is to say, I am destined to come to Mount Myoboku, get acquainted with Mount Myoboku, and then meet the son of prophecy who will save the ninja world in the future. I will accept him as an apprentice to change the ninja world. Jiraiya was very proud at first, but gradually lost her confidence later on. He once thought that Nagato was the son of prophecy, but Kiyoshi's speculation made him a little shaken. Nagato is now less and less confident in saying that Nagato is the son of prophecy. By the way, he has doubts about the existence of the son of prophecy. Hey, I thought it was Nagato before, but now, it doesn't seem to me anymore. Otherwise, if you tell me what the great Toad Sage said, maybe I have some different opinions. After Kiyoshi finished speaking, he paused to give Jiraiya time to speak. Jiraiya hesitated. Tell me in detail. He just hesitated a little, then nodded and said, if it's you, you might really have some different opinions, so let me just say. Jiraiya described his situation back then in detail. Even Tsunade and Orochimaru don't know about this. Kiyoshi revisited the big toad's magic tricks in reality, and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. That is, there is no fortune-telling profession in this world. Otherwise the great Toad Sage would have fallen. First of all, I have a question. Do you want this son of prophecy to exist? What's the meaning? Jiraiya doesn't quite understand. Hope. Of course he hopes that he exists, otherwise why did he work so hard in the first half of his life? If you want it to exist, then it exists. Even if it doesn't, why don't you create one? It's man-made. The past is doomed, but the future is in your own hands. Kiyoshi said. Jiraiya froze for a moment. The past is doomed, but the future is in your own hands? This, he didn't quite get it. You mean, the son of prophecy mainly looks at me? Otherwise. Destined, huh. This statement is very interesting. You use summoning to cause yourself to get lost in time and space. As long as Mount Myoboku understands some space-time ninjutsu and sets a coordinate, you will be drawn to that position. Jiraiya really wanted to refute, but after thinking about it for a long time, she found that the refute didn't work. Mount Myoboku does have this technique. The toads themselves can even arrange the reverse summoning technique to summon the contractor in the past. It is not difficult to set the coordinate traction under the premise of being aware of themselves. So what do you mean? Fate may be false, but if you teach every apprentice as a child of prophecy, who can guarantee that none of these people are good enough to save the ninja world? Also, can it still be like this? Jiraiya's eyes widened, and her three views were a bit subverted. He disagrees. But, can't find any rebuttal points. As long as you do your best for each apprentice and try to instill in him your own views, ideas and desire for peace, is it important to be the son of prophecy? Kiyoshi shrugged and said, you think the prophet's son is Nagato, but maybe it's actually Yahiko, or, maybe it's Minato or even Minato's child. Peeved, Minato's child. Don't you really dare to think, they have been at home for a while and haven't seen any movement, so it's too early to talk about the child. Jiraiya was thinking seriously at first, but when Kiyoshi mentioned Minato's child, he finally couldn't hold back. This is where Kyochi smiled without saying a word. The correct answer is often not believed by anyone. Jiraiya laughed a few times, and finally rubbed her face to get herself back to normal, and tried to be serious and serious. But what you said makes sense. As long as you teach every child carefully, it doesn't matter whether he is the child of prophecy. When the outstanding disciples you teach change the ninja world, you are actually the true child of prophecy, because the great Toad Sage only talked about the beginning and the end, but you have been guiding the process to completion. Kyochi curled his lips when he said that. This kind of old magic stick is the most hateful. From what you mean, I feel like I've been cheated, ha ha ha. It doesn't matter whether you are cheated or not. Without Mount Myoboku, you would not be the Jiraiya you are now. It is not a loss or even a profit for you. As a pure passerby, Kyochi has always had one thing to say. No matter how much Mount Myoboku fools around, he really does his best to Jiraiya. Ninjutsu, sage art, peace concepts, etc. are all taught by Mount Myoboku. It can be said that Mount Myoboku is Jiraiya's real teacher. Your point of view sounds outrageous at first glance, but it makes sense when you think about it carefully. Well, indeed, for me, I have nothing to lose, and I really agree with the idea of peace. Jiraiya sighed for a while, and there was no previous hesitation on his face. Kyochi glanced at him and said, but peace is not so easy to achieve. It depends on everyone being friendly. Then I think you are really living in a dream. That's just a concept. The goal is peace, and to achieve it naturally requires different means. Besides, I think everyone can get along peacefully. Jiraiya coughed lightly, obviously not confident in saying that she was fine. Kyochi didn't bother to break up with him. That kind of peace. Laugh to death. Rely on Naruto's mouth to escape, right? Not relying on the strength of Naruto and Sasuke. For peace, different people have different solutions, but in fact, almost none of them can succeed, and Jiraiya himself doesn't know what to do. What he believes in is that everyone put aside their prejudices and live in peace. But, this thing is too unreal. There are conflicts between the same village, not to mention people from different villages and countries. Everyone has different interests. How can it be truly peaceful? Unless it can be achieved that there will always be strong enemies in the ninja world, or one strong man suppresses all ninja villages, such as Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. No matter the former or the latter, there has been a period of great unity in the ninja world. However, this peace is only temporary. Kyochi never counted on peace. Speaking of which, it's not that Great Toad Sage has never guided me. He said that he dreamed of me and I would travel around the world, write and publish books. Jiraiya suddenly thought of another thing. After he finished speaking, he pondered for a while, shook his head and said, but this is still Toad Sage proposed the starting point in the result, and I will complete it. Congratulations, you can draw inferences from one instance to another. Kyochi applauds lightly. Jiraiya stared blankly, quite speechless. This guy, how about mocking yourself? Never mind. As Kyochi said, there is nothing to think about this kind of thing. As long as you train every apprentice you meet as a child of prophecy, you don't have to worry about which one is the child of prophecy. They are all my wings. Thinking of this, Jiraiya couldn't help laughing, and wretchedly took out a book. By the way, I was going to give you a gift that day, but Tsunade interrupted and destroyed it. Hehe, this book is a good thing, the only one in the world. He took out the manuscript. Kyochi glanced at it. Kiss paradise, good guy. To end the war by myself is to publish a book for you in advance, right? He. Take a look. This is my impression of traveling around the world, and the content in it gathers the essence of what I have learned in my life. Jiraiya smiled wretchedly. Kyochi flipped through it casually, and said dully, you are a normal person. I thought you were very talented in this area, but I didn't expect that you lacked imagination when writing this kind of stuff. Is this still lacking? Jiraiya's expression froze, and then she was a little annoyed. What I wrote is all about Tango Kingdom's personal experience, and all kinds of stimuli can't be imagined by a brat like you. He was outraged. Forget it in other fields, he thinks he is no match for Kyochi, but in that respect, this kid dares to look down on him. How many days have you been an adult? He is not very young, but his tone is not small. Who really reads? I read novels to see you show off your own experience. It must be to satisfy my imagination and thinking experience. Kyochi flipped through it. Have to say, Jiraiya's standard is still there, but the writing is a bit blunt. For a modern person like him, he really can't read it, and he doesn't seem to be very interested. It's too realistic. Jiraiya was speechless. This guy has never experienced anything, but he has a set of theories. If you don't believe that in the next book, you write that the protagonist is a principal, and the supporting roles are female ninjas and female teachers, then write various stories between the principal, female ninjas, and female teachers. I will make you angry. This is a classic that has gone through the test of the market. Kyochi finished speaking and gave him the book instead. This uncle is absolutely professional in this area, how could I need your guidance? Jiraiya took her own manuscript and fell into doubt again, this guy. Do you understand? But. He thought about it carefully, the plot of the male principal, the female ninja, and the female teacher. Hiss. Inspiration flowed like a fountain. Can't stand it. Jiraiya had to admit that the plot that Kyochi said was really good. Damn. Even this aspect has been compared. Is this guy really a genius? No, if Tsunade knows him. Hee. But Jiraiya dare not do that. He had a good relationship with Kyochi, and Kyochi pointed him out again, how could he do that? The second is. Tsunade didn't believe it, and probably beat him up, or the level of going to the hospital. It's really not worth the candle. Try according to what he wrote, at worst, he will be paid for the manuscript. It is good. The next storyline is here. Separated from Jiraiya. Kyochi took a moment to glance at the system panel. He heard the system prompt just now, but he didn't have much time to check it. Glanced. Your guidance made Jiraiya get rid of confusion, and he has more recognition for your teaching. Reward. Fire-style toad oil flame bomb, besides. Complete the writing ideas, guide, evaluation, excellent. Reward. Toad pinging control technique, 2 rounds of rewards were triggered. The first is not surprising at all, but the second. This guy Jiraiya has one thing to say, but another thing to think about it. He understood the truth of the Zhenxiang operation. As for this technique, Kyochi wasn't too impressed. He took it immediately. After receiving it, there seems to be a little impression in my mind. Jiraiya sneaked into Rain Shinobi village and seemed to have used this technique, but was seen through by Conan. This technique can integrate oneself with the opponent's shadow, hide oneself and control the opponent at the same time, which is a bit like an extension of the shadow imitation technique. The only pity is, it requires holding your breath. Once you breathe the ninjutsu will be automatically disarmed. Jiraiya created this technique very well, but combining his hobbies and experiences, Kyochi felt that the original intention of this guy to create this technique was probably not to better escape from the hot spring and avoid some embarrassing accidents. So, interest is a person's first teacher. Exactly. It was a bit unexpected to get 2 consecutive waves from Jiraiya, and these 2 techniques are quite useful, not the type one have already mastered. Earn blood. No novel ideas for nothing. The toad oil bomb itself is average. After all, Kyochi does not have the cooperation of the toad, but it comes with the chakra refining and transformation method of the toad oil. It belongs to buy one get one free, but you have to figure out how to integrate them into your own system and make better use of them. Just use it in a simple and rough way, and the effect must be mediocre. Having settled some matters in the village for the time being, Kyochi thought that he still had to meet the daimyo. It is common sense that the daimyo wants his own ninja team. Kyochi is not afraid of the daimyo threatening him, but he is worried that the other party will soften. Reach out and don't hit the smiling face. If the daimyo asked in a gentle voice and exchanged conditions, he would be too embarrassed to refuse directly. After all. Anyway, people have never stopped supporting Konoha's money. Forget it. Let's go see each other. Anyway, just one back and forth. Konoha has Kyochi's own technique, but he has to hurry to Kyoto. It just so happens that Asuma and the others have no mission. Take them with you. First look at the treatment of the daimyo, and then decide whether to let Asuma hang out with the daimyo for a while. Only Asuma can go. Shisui belongs to the Uchiha clan, and Kyochi is still waiting for him to play Fugaku with Ricefire. How could he let him leave Uchiha? Sunset Red is also not suitable. Only Asuma's identity, ability, and role are suitable, and he won't suffer from following the daimyo, and maybe he can find a way to catch the Guardian Ninja 12 in his hands. Kyochi summoned them, and there was no need to send for them. Just go straight to the Forest of Death. Shisui and the others are not always idle. In addition to the tasks, I practice natural energy every day. If my physical fitness is not up to standard, everyone would like to share a shadow clone practice with the teacher every day. It can be said. During this time, except when necessary, they basically lived in the Death Forest. In the forest, the 3 sat in the bushes, peaceful as if asleep, but when Kyochi came to the edge of the forest, they sensed it immediately. Teacher. I'm going to the daimyo's side. Are you going to stay with me or continue to practice here? Let me state in advance that the daimyo had the idea of setting up his own ninja team before. Asuma, you may have to protect the daimyo for a while. Kyochi didn't force it directly. If Asuma doesn't want to, he can pick someone else. Protect the daimyo. Old teacher, what kind of protection is it? Asuma was clearly thinking wrong. Kyochi was speechless. Of course it's serious protection. Kids don't think too much. I'm not Danzo. Terribly sorry. Asuma covered his face in embarrassment. He thought Kyochi wanted him to spy on Daimyo. Asuma, have you watched something you shouldn't have seen recently? Why do you suspect that teacher thinks that way? Yuhihong was indignant. Asuma nodded with a smirk. Ahem. I guess I read some of Danzo's family history. It's okay. It must be Danzo's problem. How about it? Would you like to go? Kyochi said casually. Asuma fell into deep thought. This is not a matter of a few months, but a long-term task. It may take a long time to return to Konoha after going to the daimyo. He thought for a long time, scratched his hair in annoyance and said, to be honest, teacher, I am indeed a little interested in the daimyo, but will I not be able to come back after going there for a long time? This is a problem. Well, it's okay. The specific plan hasn't been discussed yet. Let's go and have a look first. It's okay if you don't want to. It's not a big deal. The plan hasn't been finalized yet. It depends on the daimyo's thoughts. If the daimyo is full of tricks, even if he wants to satisfy the other party's wishes, he can't do it. Shisui was silent on the sidelines. He knows very well that as Uchiha, this kind of position is not suitable for him, and now that he is thriving in the Uchiha clan, there is really no need to go to the daimyo. Fugaku's series of operations successfully caused his own reputation to drop a lot. Shisui is too young to enter the public eye, but Daohuo is different. The leader of the younger generation is now joining Anbu. The previous decisions also seem to be stable. In any way, Inohara looks good, at least slightly better than Fugaku, and everyone's evaluation of him is booming. However, behind the rice fire is actually Uchiha Shisui. Shisui has been giving advice to Daohuo, telling him how to show off and gain reputation. Certainly, Shisui's suggestion came from Kyochi's influence. So, it is impossible for him to agree to let him leave Konoha, but luckily the teacher didn't think so. As the captain of Anbu, Kyochi still has some little privileges, such as there is no need to register when leaving the village. They can leave directly from the dead forest. Out of the forest. Teacher, daimyo, do you want to separate from Konoha? Asuma couldn't hold back. He had thought about Konoha and daimyo before, and he hated third generation, so he was more inclined to daimyo at first, but his thoughts gradually changed under the influence of Kyochi. The current situation made him doubtful. Otherwise, why is the daimyo looking for Kyochi so desperately? Impossible. The reason why the country of fire and Konoha can become the first in the 5 major countries and 5 major villages is because the two sides have achieved each other. The daimyo is very clear about the state of the country that lost the ninja village. Kyochi shook his head. Compared with the land of water, the daimyo of the land of fire is quite impressive. The current chaotic situation in the country of water, in addition to some credits of Madara, is followed by the conflict between Ninja Village, the country, and the family. And there is almost no conflict between the nobles of the Fire Country and Ninja Village. Among them, Konoha and Daimyo have contributed. Therefore, Tsunade then hinted to Kyochi to talk to the Daimyo and not to make things too rigid. Konoha is not far from Kyoto. Going directly from the Death Forest is even closer. Basically it will take less than an hour or two. On the way, Kyochi chatted with the 3 of them for a while. In terms of natural energy, Yuhihong made the fastest progress, followed by Asuma. Shisui is the slowest. Teacher, I feel that I may not be suitable for this kind of power. Although I can feel it, I don't know why the progress is slow. You are too smart. Smart people often find it difficult to calm down. Well, you are not the only one who has this problem. Kyochi smiled. Namikaze Minato has not been able to get started for a long time now, otherwise there would have been feedback. Smart people sometimes do bad things. Then what to do? No matter what to do, don't take this path if it's not suitable for you. It's enough to hide and understand enough. You don't have to die, and you have too many choices. Do you remember what you wanted to learn the most at first? Fencing. Shisui didn't hesitate. His initial choice was swordsmanship, followed by ninjutsu, illusion and physical arts. Here. Shisui thinks about it too. Ninjutsu, swordsmanship and illusion are all to be developed, and even Uchiha's Sharingan has not been used to the limit. If the progress of natural energy is slow, just put it on hold for the time being. Do it slowly, learn slowly, and do the rest first. There is really no need to think so much. Kurenai Yuhi has a clearer thinking in this regard. Of course, this is also because she has fewer choices, and Shisui's talent is much higher than that of Asuma and Kurenai Yuhi. There are too many choices, and sometimes it is troublesome. More than an hour passed. The 4 came to Kyoto, and Kyochi met the daimyo smoothly. Seeing Kyochi again, the daimyo's expression was a bit complicated. After motioning for Kyochi to sit down and back away from the screen, he said with emotion. When we met before, you were just a young jonin. This is also thanks to your strong support for Konoha. Kyochi said something beautiful. The daimyo laughed loudly, shook his head and said, some time ago I regretted not inviting you to my side again, but then I figured it out. Once a genius like you has made a decision, it is impossible to change it. At first he treats Kyochi like a normal jonin, so he thinks he has the ability to recruit him. However, when he heard a little bit about Kyochi's deeds, the daimyo knew that such a genius would not be able to come to him if that happened. It can only be said that Konoha's ideological education has failed too much. I invite you here this time, not to invite you to join my escort team, but I want to set up a guardian ninja to protect my own safety. I heard that you are a well-known education expert in the ninja world. I would like to ask you to help me. The daimyo cut to the chase. He knows Kyochi's current strength and status, and he must be very busy in Konoha. Being able to come to Kyoto is already a great way to save face, and there is really no need to make detours. That's why Kyochi loves working with him, simple and straightforward. Unlike some aristocrats, full of twists and turns, full of arrogant etiquette. Even if he is much stronger than the other party. But distinguished education expert. The truth is a bit overwhelming, I don't know who passed it on. Kyochi was silent for a few seconds, then asked, how far do you want to go? Enough to protect me. If this is the case, you can call Konoha's ninja team. We are more than willing to protect your excellency daimyo instead of training a group of people ourselves. Kyochi said, the name is very recognized. Direct transfer is the easiest and most convenient, but the problem is. He had a little mind in his heart. I want to have my own ninja squad, the kind that only belongs to me and only protects me. It's that simple. You only need to teach them to defend and cooperate with ninjutsu, enough to take you away from danger. This is the quickest way. If you still have strong strength, it's not impossible, it's just that it's slow and difficult to cultivate. Kyochi said, take Konoha shinobi as an example. They go to school at the age of 5 and graduate at the age of 12, but in fact most children are consciously cultivated by their parents from the age of 3 or 4. Then, what about recruiting ninjas outside? The most important thing to protect a ninja is loyalty. The ninjas from Konoha may not be completely loyal to you, but they will definitely protect your safety. But outsiders, you have to carefully screen them out. I think the ones from the Temple of Fire are not bad. Kyochi said. When the daimyo heard this, his expression relaxed, and he smiled and said, as expected of Kyochi Jonin. The ninjutsu of the Temple of Fire has a long history, and it will not be harmful to you. Their ninjutsu combines offense and defense, and training is more than enough to protect your safety. Kyochi said. Indeed, I also intend to pick 1 or 2 from them. The daimyo didn't hide his attitude. Kyochi probably understood what he was thinking. So, he quickly added, like the ninja monk of the Temple of Fire, you can choose to train as a close guardian ninja, and then slowly train new guardian ninjas, and at the same time transfer 1 or 2 teams from Konoha to participate in protection. I believe you can also see my thoughts. Why didn't you object, but proposed this plan to me instead? The daimyo looked at Kyochi with interest. Not impossible. But great. He didn't even think about the classification of close guard ninja, he just thought about forming a team of his own to completely protect his own safety. But Kyochi's classification is very organized. Naturally, you need the most trusted ninja for close quarters, but you don't need to be so particular about other aspects. Makes sense. But it's also very strange, because in daimyo's view, his own ideas are actually in conflict with Konoha. Konoha is equivalent to the army of the country of fire. It is mainly used for foreign wars and clearing up some internal chaos, providing assistance such as employment, and the duty of guardian ninja is to completely protect the safety of Kyoto. There is no conflict between the two. The guardian ninjas are divided into Konoha and other guardian ninjas. Half of the other guardian ninjas can be cultivated by themselves, and half can be dispatched from Konoha to ensure the strength of the guardian ninjas. Isn't it the forbidden army? So fresh. The daimyo's guardian 12 were too rough, and the guardian ninjas didn't even understand their responsibilities and positions, and then fell apart directly. Obviously. The daimyo listened, and he smiled and said, many people don't suggest that I talk to you, but I have a good feeling for you, and now Hokage is Tsunade. I have a good relationship with Senju, so I don't think you will object. How can those people understand the relationship between Konoha and you daimyo? Indeed, your caravan has earned us a lot of money. I also like this caravan system with multi-party participation and financial disclosure. I believe in your and Tsunade's abilities. The daimyo waved his fan. He has the money to think about this. In addition to the prosperity of the Fire Nation, the benefits brought by the Kyochi caravan are also a big reason. Speaking of this, the opinions of both sides have been unified. For Konoha's team, just choose a few young ones, and let Asuma come with his teammates from the previous Chunin exam. I think they are pretty good. The daimyo paused when he said this. I still need your help with something here. There is a talented monk named Jilu in the Temple of Fire, who is about the same age as Asuma. Can Konoha take him for a while? No problem. Just ask him to come to Konoha to report. Land. Kyochi has an impression of him. The ninja monk of the Temple of Fire, one of the 12 guards, and later became the host of the Temple of Fire, is indeed not weak in strength, and his unique ninjutsu is also very interesting. But what impressed him most was 30 million. Now, it seems to be similar to Asuma, just a child. As for the Asuma team, Kyochi vaguely remembered that the other two seemed to be Kodzuki Izumo and Goko Tetsu. He has those two abilities, otherwise he wouldn't have been the goalkeeper in Konoha for so many years, making his face in various situations, but now after being taught by him, his strength has improved to a higher level than before. But according to the principle of 1 belt and 3, this team is still short of 1. Kyochi began to think about the candidate in his mind. The team of the last member of this team, is Ebisu suitable? But that kid is more suitable for education. Now he is half a teacher of ninja school, and many questions in the lower grades have to be answered by him. Think about it. The best fit, Kyochi found, seemed to be Aoba Yamashiro. Aoba is very versatile. He knows a little bit of illusion, ninjutsu, taijutsu, scouting, etc., and he is not bad at it. The only question is, can Kyoto raise so many crows? That's a problem. He pondered for a while, and finally heaved a sigh of relief. This kind of problem. Let Tsunade take care of the headache. To be honest, the fighting intensity of the Guardian Ninja is not too high, but more about protection and cultivation. If the rotation mechanism is included, it may be a 1-year intern. He also discussed this with the daimyo. There is nothing wrong with the daimyo, because Kyochi's suggestion is that there should be 4 to 6 squads of Guardian Ninjas, and the squad sent by Konoha only takes up 2 squads. Only 1/3 of the Guardian Ninjas are not guards at all. Kano only chooses from the Temple of Fire, such a plan. He is perfectly fine with it. After coming out, Asuma looked at Kyochi anxiously. Teacher, how are you? It's been drafted for the time being. I haven't said anything yet. The daimyo will call the name and hope that your team during the Chunin exam will be able to protect Shinobi. Well, you can think about it yourself. To protect Shinobu, Kyochi doesn't plan to intervene, but Asuma has already taught the ninjutsu and thinking that should be taught. In a sense, Asuma can become a teacher after the Chunin exam. Now it's time for him to go out and lead the team himself. Can it be rotated? 1 year. Yes, thank you teacher. Asuma breathed a sigh of relief. 1 year. This time is okay, not too long. After a year, you can return to Konoha from the Guardian Ninja, and the experience and time during this period can be regarded as part of the practice. Pretty good. He thought about it and thought he had no reason to refuse. Congratulations. Shisui was a little envious. He could tell that Asuma was leading the team himself. After all, his team during the Chunin exam was based on him, and Kodzuki Izumo and Gang ZT were not weak. Compared with geniuses, it is lacking, but it is not weak when it cooperates. The only regret is, going to Guardian Ninja, I am afraid that the number of battles will be relatively small. However, in the peaceful age when the war ended, even genuine ninjas like them could only bully wandering ninjas or bandits. So, in this respect, there is not much difference. On the contrary, as the captain, there are more things to consider, which is a good growth opportunity for myself. If you perform well, when your team comes back, you can form a fixed team to carry out the task. When Kyochi said this, he felt a little bit emotional. You are all Chunin. Sooner or later you will have to perform tasks separately. I hope you can understand this. Yes, teacher, I understand. Yuhihong sorted out her emotions. She knew who the teacher was comforting. From the ninja school, she was in the same class as Asuma until she was assigned to a small team, although she knew that sooner or later everyone would go their separate ways. But when the day really came, she still couldn't help feeling a little sad. Teacher, I will not disappoint your teaching. When I come back from Guardian Ninja, I will definitely become a qualified captain. Asuma bowed deeply. He respects Kyochi from the bottom of his heart, and wants to study with Kyochi for the rest of his life, but as long as he wants to be a jonin, he must lead the team independently. This is an inevitable process. I am looking forward. Kyochi patted his head, then got up, and there was a shadow clone beside him. The next moment, whoosh, a group of people returned to Konoha from Kyoto. Flying Thunder God is easy to use, just a bit of a chakra fee. But, recently, Kyochi has continued to teach Phylajun on Anbu's side, and the proficiency of Flying Thunder God has increased. In addition, Kyochi's Shadow Clone Day and Night research has made small progress. Now only long-distance shadow clones are needed. In the case of close combat, he can already do it without a clone. It is a small improvement. Teacher, is this Flying Thunder God? It feels like. How about it? It's a powerful technique, but unfortunately, even the teacher needs shadow clones' assistance. It is very difficult to learn, and it is not something ordinary people can master. Shisui sighed regretfully. He is not an ordinary person, but the teacher is not. Even Mr. Kyochi cannot master it quickly, which shows how difficult this Flying Thunder God is. Shortly. Shisui still doesn't expect this stuff anymore. After all, swordsmanship and ninjutsu alone are enough for me to master, not to mention the natural energy that I have not mastered. As the teacher said, it is better to focus on the present than to learn things that are not suitable for you. Swordplay, Sharingan. Next, the goal of cultivation should be these two kinds. Let's go. Let's eat barbecue, I'm treating you today. After a meal, everyone bid farewell to each other and went back to their own homes. Kyochi watched them leave with a burst of emotion in his heart. Shisui and Yuhihong are not far away. The current situation of Konoha is to reform education in the future. This combination of 1 belt and 3 will be reduced, and more will be matched with each other. Certainly. Excellent students can still take 3. Like Shisui and Yuhihong, they fully meet the requirements and conditions of Chunin. They are the best in the Chunin exam, and they don't even need Chunin retraining. So, Kyochi is currently thinking about combining them to form an elite team first. For example, combinations like Shisui, Kakashi, Guy, and Kurenai Yuhi. The 4 of them don't need retraining at all. The only problem is, these 4 people are not very old and have high potential. They all belong to the promising future type. In case any accident occurs during the mission, it will be a huge loss to Konoha, but from another perspective, Kakashi and Guy are veterans on the battlefield. Although Shisui and Yuhihong have only experienced 1 war, they cooperate very well with each other and cooperate with others very harmoniously. They can even match Kakashi very well. This combination is definitely not bad, can consider it. Talk to Tsunade when you get back. As for land, Kyochi intends to let him go to the ninja school first, experience the crazy and introverted ninja world, and then think about how to spend the life of a genin. At least, it can't be like that, it's so frustrating. Certainly. His own disciple was even more aggrieved and was beaten to death by Hidan. Facts have proved that with Hidan's brain, as long as he plans reasonably and knows enough information, he can be regarded as the bottom of the Akatsuki organization. If it wasn't for the assistance of Shenchung Chingye and the others, it would probably be life in exchange for a bounty. But, for now, Hidan probably won't have much of a chance. At present, his sect is like a mouse crossing the street in Tang Ninuo, and everyone shouts and beats it. Tang Nin Village even invited Cloud Shinobi Village to help. At present, the cult has been suppressed to the point of lingering. In short, it was miserable. Delu? I've heard of him. He is a genius among the ninja monks of Hojizi's generation. He has already mastered the threshold of immortal talent at a very young age. There are not many ninja monks in the Temple of Fire, but they are still well known in the ninja world of the Fire Country. Although they do not belong to Konoha, they all want to share their ideas. After hearing this, Tsunade thought for a while and said, "Is there any chance for us to keep him?" "No need. I've heard of the talent of the Fairy Clan. Although he is powerful, he is not without alternatives, and at present he is only promising in the future. There is no need to fight against the daimyo for him, right? I was just moved a little bit, alas, I still understand rationally." Tsunade was stuck against the window. The communication between Kyochi and the daimyo was surprisingly smooth, and daimyo's needs were actually not beyond their imagination. In addition, in terms of funds, the daimyo gave a lot of support. With the recent support from ninja schools, training grounds, etc., the daimyo has paid a lot of money, including some funds from the research institute, and the daimyo has also contributed a lot of money. But Kyochi thought about it, if the land is brought to his mouth, no matter how he can squeeze out some wool, right? Also, instructing the daimyo, even a golden binding technique. It's an illusion. The effect is quite good, and Kyochi has already been able to do many techniques that don't require knot seals, and can be performed with a few small movements. So, this technique is quite good for him. Certainly. It's just icing on the cake, it doesn't make Kyochi more powerful. For now, Kyochi feels that his key is still to rely on Shanshu cultivation. Speaking of this, Tsunade took out a bottle of wine from under the table. "What are you going to do with the country of water? Are you really dragging it to the country of water to find it yourself?" "No, to be honest, I'm waiting for the research results of that special cell. In addition, I have been practicing the celestial chakra recently, and my physique seems to have improved a lot. I want to wait. The practice of wet bone forest is effective. Kyochi's current body has gradually adapted to the natural energy, and his practice speed has increased many times faster than before. Originally, it would take several days to fill up the chakra in the 100 healings mark. And now, an hour is enough. Turning on Sage mode directly without using the 100 healings mark will take a minute to prepare. Not too short, but not too long either. The key is continue to practice. This time can continue to be shortened. These are not considered physical improvements. Kyochi can clearly feel that his body is getting stronger now, and his chances of winning will be greater after a while. On the other hand, on Madara's side, there is actually no room for improvement. Who does he rely on? A group of still developing Uchiha people. Totally impossible. Those people, it's not that Kyochi looks down on him, he can completely hang with one hand, and Black Zetsu's ability is not strong. Time was on his side. But Kyochi suddenly thought, is it possible to use Nagato's Rinnegan to reverse lock Madara and Geto statue? It is definitely not possible to rely on Nagato alone. But now that he has White Zetsu's body tissue, with Orochimaru around, he will not be able to grow tissue cells to achieve transplant enhancement. Maybe it works. You seem lost in thought? I just thought, if Rinnegan is combined with that special cell, will it be able to derive new abilities? Kyochi said, there is only one Geto statue. If Nagato can be fused with White Zetsu cells, and then he can summon Geto statue summoning, does it mean that Madara will die directly? The more Kyochi thought about it, the more he felt that this plan was reliable. Maybe it is possible to take down Uchiha Madara without bloodshed, and the ninja world will have the final say by then? And Nagato's side. Kyochi believes that with his relationship with Yahiko, it is not difficult to communicate with each other about these things, not to mention that it is not a loss for Nagato. Get the White Zetsu cell, the power he gets will be even stronger. Feasible. And now that I have mastered the Flying Thunder God, I just need the Enbu Ninja to hand over the Flying Thunder God spell to Yahiko. I'll go to Orochimaru first. Kyochi didn't explain much. Straight up, Flying Thunder God left graduate school. Orochimaru was transplanting White Zetsu cells into the snake, and after tossing and testing the data, he sensed a figure suddenly appearing outside. Kyochi. Wrong. This guy appeared instantly. He was stunned for a moment, and the next second, he saw Kyochi coming in from the door. Real body. When did you master the Flying Thunder God? It's not the full version. For the time being, I can only say that it can be used. Cough, the point is not this. How is the research on this special cell? How to put it, at present, the invasiveness and effect of this cell are not as good as Hashirama cells, which is a bit like the diluted version you mentioned, but because of this, it is more suitable for transplantation. Orochimaru said, pointing at the surrounding ninjas. Many of these artificially cultivated ninjas have been transplanted with White Zetsu cells at the moment, and each of them has a much stronger breath than before, and there is an obvious white area on the body. These cells. Well, it's all special cells. It's corrosive, but it basically has no short-term harm to Ninja Beast. In the long run, I can't say for the time being. Without experimental data, he couldn't guarantee that the long-term transplant would be fine. But there is no doubt that it is more suitable for human transplantation than Hashirama cells. I need your help. Kyochi recounted his thoughts. Although he didn't elaborate on how to do it, Orochimaru is a person who is not afraid of things. He has been interested in Rinnegan for a long time, but he has never had the opportunity to contact him. Now the opportunity is in front of you, how can you miss it? He said firmly, leave now. Wait, let's experiment with the effect of special cells first. Transplant it to me, I have Muji cure. Even if there is a problem, it will be cut off at worst. Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. Orochimaru was rather taken aback. Kyochi's choice. Kind of crazy. Transplanted by himself, although his explanation is reasonable, but how can he use himself as a test subject? He froze for several seconds. To be honest, I don't dare. Are you go to Tsunade and ask for an application form, so that she can perform the transplant operation? Orochimaru hesitated. He is not afraid that Tsunade will kill him, but he has already buried Nawaki. If Kyochi has another accident due to surgery problems, not only Tsunade will not be able to pass the test. He couldn't pass this test in his heart. My physique is stronger than you imagined. Even first-generation cells can't completely erode it, let alone such low-matching cells. Forget it, you dare not operate it by myself. Saying that, Kyochi instantly came to a ninja beast. Wait. Kyochi, don't be impulsive. This kind of cell has not been tested on humans. I'll do it. After Orochimaru finished speaking, The bandage on the back of his hand fell apart, revealing a wound. Next second, he implanted a piece of tissue cells into the wound. Afterwards, under basic treatment, the wound healed slowly. Kyochi froze for a few seconds. Good guy. Are you ready for implant wounds, boy? If it was a step too late, Orochimaru would have transplanted it himself. There was no need for him to come forward. He was stunned for a few seconds, not knowing what to say. Because, he is clear that white Zetsu cells do not have much side effects. I actually thought about it before, but I never dared to, but it is true. Now that Konoha medical is so developed, even if the transplant fails, this level of erosion can be cut off in time. Orochimaru endured the pain. After a while, his eyes lit up. The flesh and blood are fused. How about it? Although I know the answer, but still have to ask. But in fact, looking at Orochimaru's refreshing eyes, he knew that he couldn't be better at the moment, and there was no superfluous problem at all. Orochimaru felt it for a moment. Afterwards, a smile appeared on his face. Although he felt a little cold, he could see that he was very happy. I can't confirm too much at the moment, but its effect is indeed there, and it is not very erosive. In terms of applicability, it is much better than Hashirama cells, and the cell viability is also very good. Orochimaru is a bit tempted to implant more special cells. But increase the number, maybe it will cause yourself to be backlashed. He hesitated. Well, as long as the effect is alright, in this way, give me another hand to try, and if it doesn't work, change it back. Orochimaru glanced at Kyochi, hesitated to speak. Of the Senju blood, are they all that capricious? After hesitating for a moment, he said, it doesn't feel necessary to be like you, Senju's physique is already strong enough. I am the safest experimental subject, and I am voluntary. What's wrong? Besides, if this thing doesn't work, just cut it off and replace it, it just hurts a little. Kyochi hesitated at this point. Strong is true. The pain is real too. I really don't want to change it unless it is a last resort, but if Nagato is really allowed to transplant cells and enhance Rinnegan's ability, then the showpiece is essential. If you're worried that Nagato won't agree, well, let me transplant it. Anyway, it has been confirmed that it is not very invasive. If it doesn't work, I happen to have another surgery that I am researching. Orochimaru didn't go any further when he said this. But Kyochi knew that Orochimaru was talking about Hachi technique. Certainly. So far, Orochimaru has not yet developed the Yuki technique, and there is only a state that is not necessarily conceived in theory, but the erosiveness of this cell is not so deadly. If there is some kind of side effect, he just left Konoha and concentrated on studying what he wanted to study. Or, it can also be considered to further reduce the side effects. These are just minor problems, therefore. Orochimaru thought about it, and said to Kyochi, that's it. I think what you said makes sense. As a researcher, you should be cautious in the research of every technique. It's really good to try it on yourself first. Choose. After speaking, he bowed his head and started to play with the snake. The snake was transplanted with cells, and now he intends to transplant it into his body. I really don't need to. Kyochi feels weird. Although he is afraid of pain, he doesn't think there is a big problem with the transplant. After all, if it is not suitable, the big deal is to change it back. It is good to experience it. How come now? Speaking for itself, Orochimaru goes a step further. He really didn't want to instigate. Okay, I don't modify my body once or twice. I'm already familiar with this kind of experiment. You can help me treat it later. As Orochimaru said, he directly stabbed himself with the knife. Back of hand, arm. After 3 or 4 holes go down, the cells are directly stuffed in. Kyochi sighed helplessly. It seems that white Zetsu cells are unlikely to be available for the time being. Never mind. No, there is no, but he is still very curious. Is this thing a big improvement for him? Kyochi was lost in thought. Orochimaru gritted his teeth, heal me. Sorry, I was distracted for a while. Kyochi quickly sealed, and under the effect of healing jutsu, his wound healed quickly and fused with white Zetsu cells. Then, he said, actually, you can try to use chakra to actively destroy the cells around the special cells and let them erode come out. Orochimaru thought for a while, nodded slightly, and then said hoarsely, but next time, you can say it in advance, instead of saying it after I've cut all the wounds. Cough. Don't pay attention to these details. Now you can try to actively let the cells slowly erode your arm, but it's best to keep it on the arm and not invade the viscera. Orochimaru knew what Kyochi meant. Limbs are relatively easy to remove and replace body parts. If it is an internal organ, once it erodes inside, it will be even more difficult to cut and replace. Therefore, Without the premise of safety, it is more reasonable to use the limbs as the experimental object. Orochimaru naturally understood this. After he transplanted the cells, his mind became calmer. He took out a pen and paper and quickly recorded some data and thoughts. As a researcher, Orochimaru is really hanging. Kyoshi admired in his heart. This guy doesn't care about the shape of his body at all, he only cares about the strength, so even the pocket he learned from him is like a bird. The last big snake pocket. To be honest, that guy is not like a person at all, but a stitch monster. At present, there is no deterioration reaction, but I feel in good condition. I can feel the changes in my body. Is this vitality? Orochimaru was curious. This feeling is very strange. The body obviously hasn't become much stronger, but the vitality and cell activity have improved a lot. Among them, the left hand with the transplanted cells has the most obvious effect. It may be. In fact, if the rejection of this kind of cells is not high, can we try to popularize them as special prosthetics? Prosthetics. Orochimaru was stunned for a few seconds, and after thinking about it, it was quite appropriate. This thing isn't the most suitable for people without limbs? The only problem at present is that it is not clear what the side effects will be in the later period. Orochimaru thought for a while and said, "Can you convince Tsunade and the old man?" As long as safety can be ensured, it can give many ninjas who have retired due to disabilities a chance to become ninjas again. Why do Miss Tsunade and third generation oppose it? But right now, we haven't fully confirmed the safety. Let's observe it for a few days first, and if it's feasible, we can propose it to Tsunade and the old man. Of course Orochimaru knew how many cruel people Konoha had. It's okay to hurt your foot, and you can barely continue to be a ninja with a prosthetic leg, but once you hurt your hand, the consequences will be serious. After all, there are not many ninjas who fight purely by physical skills like Might Dai. Different people have different rejection reactions. Before the transplant, you can take a small spot to observe and test the rejection reaction, and then consider whether to give him a transplant. You and Tsunade know more about medical treatment than I do, so I won't participate. Orochimaru said, looking closely at his own arm, continuing to record the data. Now the erosiveness of the cells is he actively diffused. For now. Even if it actively diffuses, its erosiveness is not too strong. If the body does not reject it too much, it is completely feasible to transplant it as a prosthetic. But if you want to make prosthetics, you need not only flesh and blood cells, but also bones. Orochimaru had a bad feeling. Master Tsunade, third generation, I will mention it. You are in charge of helping to cultivate the prosthetic limbs, no problem. That's fine, I will withdraw first. If you feel unwell, come to me immediately. Do you know where my shadow clone is? Wait a moment. Orochimaru wanted to stop Kyoshi and talk about Rinnegan, but Kyoshi had already left. Flying Thunder God, speed is fast. Orochimaru is numb. This, inexplicably, I have one more task at hand. You brat, you're not a human being. Simple one word. Numb. Orochimaru can't explain his current mental state in words, he has completely become a toolman, the key is. Review just now. It's all self-inflicted. Knowing this kid's urinating nature, I still sent it to him. It was fine before, but this time I took the initiative. Planted. But. Orochimaru thought for a moment, a small smile appeared on his face. I am not at a loss. If Kyoshi had not offered to use himself as an experimental subject, he would not have made up his mind to conduct experiments on himself and try the possibility of cell transplantation. It turns out, this kind of cells is indeed a bit like a diluted version of Hashirama cells, which is weaker, but more easily accepted and accommodated by the body. Its vitality is overflowing. What about Hashirama cells? Whoever dares to implant Hashirama cells will end up turning into a tree to benefit the ninja world. So many people. In the end, only the idiot Yamato, who really fused the Hashirama cells, mastered a part of wood-style ninjutsu. However, it is a pity that silly boy's wood style is not powerful enough, so he might not be able to count on it in battle. Unless Yamato Krypton life. But Krypton life seems to be the same. After all, Kyoshi, Kanda, has already researched wood-style ninjutsu directly by relying on theory and scientific research, and also understood the mechanism of Krypton life. Basically, unless the powerhouse of Kyoshi's generation suddenly dies suddenly, it will not be Yamato's turn to die. Orochimaru adapted quickly. Since it needs to be done, start cultivating it now, so as not to waste time going back. Exactly. During this period of time, you can observe your physical state and see whether the rate of cell erosion will accelerate under the state of consuming chakra, physical energy and mental energy. These are items to watch. Generally speaking, Orochimaru got into the state very quickly, and after just a moment, he recovered from the slight annoyance just now and started working with concentration. So, as Kyoshi thought, Orochimaru is very flexible with his positioning and baseline as long as there's something that appeals to him, which is why he's able to hang out with Danzo. Arrive home. Kyoshi still finds it ridiculous. He really has the attitude of giving it a try, and wants to implant white Zetsu cells to see if he can improve after implanting white Zetsu cells, and whether the Sage mode can be smoother. Result. Orochimaru robbed him of all this. If you come up to touch porcelain by yourself, who else will you cheat? Tsunade glanced up. What's the matter? What are you going to talk about, in such a hurry? He left without saying hello. What about showing off the flying thunder god? That is, my own family, replaced by others. Alright. After becoming a Hokage, Tsunade's temper has been restrained a lot, and other people may be more gentle, and only to himself will he show his true nature. Actually, it's nothing. Just now, I suddenly thought that if it's really according to our guess, the special cells have a certain effect on the pupil technique, and the ordinary Sharingan may not be high enough. What about the Rinnegan? Kyoshi said. Tsunade frowned. Where is this? Rinnegan and Sharingan are not the same thing at all, they are not related. Fortunately, this kid can pull a piece. She just wanted to refute, but after careful consideration, she felt that Kyoshi meant something else. She thought about it for a long time, and her expression was startled. You mean? According to the current research, the source of this kind of cells must be first-generation cells, but the effect and side effects are much weaker, but because of this, it is easier to be accepted by the human body. When Kyoshi said this, Tsunade actually understood. Nagato's eyes are probably not his own, and the load on his eyes is probably not small, so as a descendant of the Uzumaki family, he has obvious characteristics, but his body is normal since he was a child. Strong vitality. In him, there is no perfect embodiment. If such cells were transplanted, this incompatibility might be alleviated. But you have no experimental basis. It's just your guess with Orochimaru. Now we have a good relationship with Rain Shinobi Village, but I think it's not easy to get Nagato to participate in the experiment. Tsunade shook his head, not quite approving. Bottom line. Nagato's parents were killed by Konoha Shinobi, even because of Jiraiya, Yahiko and Kyoshi, there is no grudge with Konoha now. But let him come to Konoha to participate in such an experiment without any experimental basis. When people have no brains, Tsunade understands Kyoshi's thoughts and the urgency to find the enemy behind him, but she cannot agree with such a decision. Orochimaru has already transplanted the cells. What? Boom. The table collapsed. The corner of Kyoshi's mouth twitched. This is my own. Never mind. It wasn't the first time anyway. My sister, this is my own table. Don't be so excited. Actually, I wanted to transplant it, because I have Muji healing, and only a small part of it will not have much impact, and I still have it. Grandmaster Medical Ninjutsu, you can save yourself at any time. You. HMPH, go on. Tsunade raised his eyebrows, his blood pressure went up a bit. However, the table has been smashed, and now there is still a floor. It is difficult to repair this thing if it is smashed, unlike the table, just replace it. She came to her senses instantly. But Orochimaru insisted on doing it himself, alas. Kyoshi naturally didn't say. Orochimaru is a bit of a jerk, he has already thought about it, and even reserved the wound, so he probably will go later, and Orochimaru, who is flexible in the bottom line, has already completed the transplant operation by himself. This guy, Tsunade sighed and stopped talking. What happened to Nawaki back then, not only made her sad, but as the only disciple who had been cultivated with all his heart, Nawaki had a great position in Orochimaru's heart. Nawaki died and Orochimaru was also sad, so. For his brother's death, Tsunade didn't hold much resentment towards Orochimaru. This is life, there is no way. She was silent for a few seconds. Hey, forget it this time, how about it? No problem, right? No, it's been very successful so far. Even the cells are still feeding back on themselves, gradually increasing their vitality and physical fitness. It can be seen that the role of this kind of cells is indeed not small. Kyoshi paused for a moment, then a smile appeared on his face. In addition to this, I think there are many ninjas who were disabled in the war in Konoha. If this kind of cells does not have much erosive effect on the human body, can they be popularized as prosthetics? Tsunade froze for a moment. This kid. Dare to think. Prosthetics. Can that thing be called a prosthetic? But if it is indeed harmless to the human body, she really can't find a reason to stop it. After all, many disabled ninjas are not willing to retreat to the second line, especially civilian ninjas. Family ninjas can rely on the protection of the family to live nourished, but the civilians are different. Their source of income is more from the ninja missions. Even if there is a subsidy for the disabled, it is definitely not as nourishing as being a ninja. Tsunade struggled. This thing is indeed feasible, but there are many taboos. Do you think it's feasible? It is feasible to some extent, but each person has different resistance and rejection reactions to special cells. We can inoculate a small number of cells first to see the rejection effect and then see if it is suitable. The plan is a good plan, but this one was completely blank before. You also know that the Konoha hospital is now occupied by Mrs. Bawako and the transfer seniors. Even if I agree with them, it is impossible for them to agree. Tsunade frowned. So we need to talk to them, and this is not as a routine treatment plan, but a special treatment plan for special situations. Personally, I agree with this kind of treatment. Forget it, I'll talk to them another day. Please, just wait until Teacher Bawako retires. Tsunade didn't object, just found it troublesome. She herself is more supportive of medical reform. If there is only one Udatane Kaharu in the hospital, she can fight back without any burden, but the problem is that the hospital also has Sarutobi Lake Biwa. That she is more respectful. This is the most important thing. In addition, I noticed from Anbu's information that there is a means of transportation in the snow country called a train. Kyochi said, taking out a copy of the information. The shape of the train was drawn on it. Tsunade took it and looked at it carefully, with a smile on his face, and said, I have heard of this kind of car. It is said to be very heavy, and it needs to lay rails in advance to run, and the ninja world is only in the snow country. Only on the side. This is a good thing, we must also build it. Kyochi said seriously. Why? Tsunade was puzzled, and she then explained, you have to understand that this kind of thing takes up a lot of space, and the laying of railroad tracks passes through a lot of paths. How can the land of fire have so much land? The land of fire is different from the land of snow. The land of snow is full of snow. Even if there is no railroad track, there is no way to farm, but in the land of fire, every piece of land can be used for farming. This is also where the Kingdom of Fire is stronger than other countries. The land resources are abundant and the country is rich. The money needed to build a railway track is incalculable. First of all, it allows us to support to the border faster, so that the frontline ninjas will not invade. We will not be able to support the past until a day or two later. Secondly, our goods can be imported into other countries faster and more, and we can earn money and resources from other countries. The most important thing is that we are not short of food at all now. Kyochi made the point. How much land does a railway track occupy? Their wood-style planting can accelerate the growth of grain to more than several times, and the benefits brought by building several railway tracks are definitely higher. At present, we can grow food on a large scale, so we don't need to worry about the food problem, but there are still many problems that cannot be solved. If you occupy the land, what should the original landowners do? These are irreconcilable contradictions. Tsunade knew that Kyochi was talented, but still young in many ways, so he patiently explained to him. Being Hokage is not that simple. But, Kyochi smiled and said, these are not problems. The occupied land can be replaced with high monetary returns. The second is the factory workshop. Huh? What do you mean? Tsunade was puzzled. Money return. She knew what it meant. It was equivalent to buying land with money. But factories, workshops? Mention this. The essence of farming is that the basic structure of our current productivity and work is fields. We occupy the fields, and those who have other fields are fine. But what will happen to those who do not have other fields after losing their land? So, there needs to be jobs for them. After Kyochi explained, Tsunade fell into deep thought. She understood most of the concepts, but these concepts. It's so weird. Did this kid make such an idea very early on? Tsunade gave Kyochi a suspicious look. In addition to employment positions, there is also the need to avoid these areas as much as possible, choose mountainous areas with few people, and occupy as little land as possible. Anyway, we have ninjutsu. Ninjutsu is really handy. Switching to the previous life, it is very difficult to make railroad tracks in Yamanaka, but here. Get on earth style. Not to mention. Now there is wood style ninjutsu, these are not things. I understand, you came prepared. You have a secret case before, and now you want to divert my attention, right? Brat, there are so many tricks. Tsunade raised her hand, but the table was shattered, so she had to slap it on her own thigh. This kid. There are more and more eyes. You can't say that. Heck, you have already agreed to the previous proposals, and I don't need to divert my attention, right? These are two different things and should not be confused. Kyochi coughed lightly. He did have the idea of diverting his gaze, but it was just a little bit, very small. A little bit. Okay, I will submit your suggestion, but whether you can agree to it is a matter for the daimyo. Of course, as far as your current cooperative relationship with the daimyo is concerned, I think it is very simple. Tsunade was still a little annoyed when he said this. Obviously I am Hokage. Why is it as if Kyochi is the uncrowned king of Konoha now? If you have something to do, please go to Kyochi first. What about yourself? What about her Hokage? There is no sense of existence. Thinking about it carefully, it's really a bit uncomfortable. Certainly. Thinking of Kyochi as my younger brother. That's fine. Konoha's matter, there is a lot to say, but there is not much to say, in fact, there is not so much. Tsunade has gradually become proficient in official duties recently, and now he can handle those messy documents and go home for a glass of wine. After drinking and eating, he started talking nonsense again. Kyochi got used to it. He looked at the fragments of the table and couldn't help twitching the corners of his mouth. Tsunade is a nice person. Even if he drinks too much, he looks beautiful and beautiful, even more beautiful than usual. It is a bit expensive table. Putting that aside. Really good. Master Kyochi, just now? Shizune rushed over from the yard. She was taking care of her herbs just now, when she suddenly heard a movement. Oh, it's nothing. My table has collapsed. Next time, remember to buy a better quality one. Forget it, just buy one of average quality. Anyway, it is a consumable in our family. Shizune gulped, not knowing how to vomit. Consumables. Master Tsunade must hear this, it's amazing. She looked in. Miss Tsunade is asleep, please move her into the house. Yes. Asleep, that's all right. Shizune breathed a sigh of relief. Asleep Tsunade is easier to get along with. Woke up the next day. Tsunade sat in the living room in a daze, the table at home. Gone too. Where's Kyochi? Master Kyochi? I left the house very early. Do you have something to do? Fine. Tsunade sighed. I drank some wine yesterday and couldn't think clearly about many things. That train. She felt that what Kyochi said made sense, but she always felt that the kid still had a lot of ideas to say, and it was worth digging deeper. Unfortunately, now that the Kyochi has run away, there is no way to get him back. Tsunade thought about it, but didn't bother to think about it. She just had to submit the matter of the train, and it would be a headache for the daimyo and the others. She didn't have to think about it here, but it was about the prosthetic limb. Although it hasn't been discussed yet, Tsunade already foresees that things will not go well. After all, that is Utatane Kaharu and Sarutobi Lake Biwa. She would rather quarrel with third generation with a blush and a thick neck than with Sarutobi Lake Biwa, because Lake Biwa is a soft knife and will not be tough with her. Happily. That's what Tsunade eats. Uncomfortable. She went out dejectedly. I promised yesterday, no matter how uncomfortable it is, I still have to face it today. Tsunade had already imagined that scene. Konoha Hospital. Kyochi came here early. There is also a research department at the hospital, and Kyochi has basically never managed the subjects here, and Tsunade and the others are all in charge of them. Although there is no interference. However, the work here is still impressive, and even the DNA sequence has begun to be studied. So far, Orochimaru has only roughly touched on this stuff. So, Utatane Kaharu is a consultant for everything, is she capable of that? No, however, in Konoha Hospital, it is very suitable. Kyochi. Why are you free today? Sarutobi Bawako saw Kyochi with a big smile. She still likes this child very much. He has many ideas and strong abilities, but sometimes he speaks a little more straightforwardly and thinks a little faster. It is difficult for them to keep up with the elderly. Oh, I'm free recently, so come and have a look. I heard that you have developed some DNA sequence tests. I'll send this over for you to help test. Kyochi took out the white Zetsu cell scroll. This thing. I'll need it later, so send it here in advance. Sarutobi Bawako glanced suspiciously. What? Confidential level items, please be sure to study them in a confidential manner. It is good. Sarutobi Bawako knows priorities. Kyochi himself said it was a secret. The importance of this thing is beyond doubt. After speaking, Kyochi slipped away. Not long after, Tsunade arrived at Konoha Hospital. She was thinking about Kyochi. She stayed in Hokage's office for a while in the morning and came to the hospital to have a look. Result. Hey, why are you here, Tsunade? Huh? Also? Tsunade vaguely felt something was wrong. Could it be that Kyochi was here just now? Is there anything special? Indeed, I need to discuss with you, Tsunade said, sensing his surroundings. Next moment, she whispered Kyochi's plan. After hearing this, Sarutobi Biwa already understood why the brat came early, and she could guess a thing or two about the confidential document in hand. She twitched the corner of her mouth and said, so you agree with it? Under the premise of ensuring safety and voluntary use, I think this kind of prosthesis can be used in special occasions. Of course, it is certain that it cannot be abused. Tsunade said. Sarutobi Lake Biwa is a bit of a headache. Prosthetics. Fortunately, the siblings can figure it out. Although it is indeed useful, the medical problems it brings cannot be solved in one sentence. Ahem, that's the specific situation. I'm still very busy there, so I'm leaving first. And many more. Sarutobi Biwa just shouted out. Tsunade has disappeared with body flicker technique. Now that both Tsunade and Kyochi had slipped away, she looked at the scroll in her hand, lost in thought. Prosthetics. It's not impossible. As Tsunade said, only in special and voluntary circumstances, allowing patients to choose whether to receive prosthetics, and conducting rejection tests in advance can avoid many things. The issue is, the various problems in it can add up to exceed the current work tasks of the research department. 2 siblings, nothing good, she complained speechlessly from the bottom of her heart. Kyochi's card is so accurate, of course, because he knew that Tsunade was coming, and D. Lu from the village entrance also came. On the other hand, the 4th member of Asuma's team should also be selected and supplemented. After thinking about it, he still thinks that Aoba Yamashiro is the most suitable, not weak, about the same age as Asuma, and has good strength in many aspects such as command and perception. As for the other team, choose from Anbu. There is no need to worry too much, just choose the Anbu team who is currently training the Thunderbolt technique. Although the Flying Thunder Array has not been fully trained, but they have mastered it almost. They even need the help of the Shadow Clone to master the Flying Thunder Array, but at least they can be used. Yes, better than nothing. Giving the Phylajun team to the Guardian Ninja can also protect the Daimyo at all times. Just send the Daimyo over at critical moments, and the safety degree can be directly maximized. Village entrance. D. Lu is holding the voucher and registering at the front. For your side, the village's arrangement is to let you go to the ninja school, but the ninja school is not in the village. Of course, if you want. Master Kyochi. Chunin, who was guarding the gate, saw Kyochi and immediately stood up. Kyochi waved his hand. You don't need to stand up, D. Lu, right? Just follow me, and you guys continue your own business. Yes. Chiriku bowed slightly, and walked through the gate towards Kyochi. Kyochi didn't say anything. He took Delu around Konoha, let Delu look around to his heart's content, and vented his curiosity. After walking around, he walked to the former Konoha Shinobi school site. My lord, as this place. This is where the Konoha Shinobi school used to be, but it has been transformed into a training ground and park for the surrounding villagers to play on a daily basis. The original Konoha Shinobi school has now become a lush park. There are many green plants and running tracks in the park that can provide places for hiding and training. Lu didn't understand at first. But, soon, he saw a lot of people exercising inside, ranging from children to ninjas in their 40s and 50s. It didn't look like playing at all. He practiced fiercely one by one, which made him dumbfounded. These people, they are all Konoha ninjas, and some are not even ninjas. The youngest may only be 3 or 4 years old. What? Lulu widened his eyes. 3 or 4 years old. Is it so hard? In the Temple of Fire, although they can also exercise when they are 3 or 4 years old, they usually help with some chores, such as sweeping the floor and planting fields. But Konoha's children are not. They directly train gymnastics and ninja tools, and even children are very hardworking, and are these people just civilians? I don't know how you ninja monks train, but Konoha's ninjas have to start practicing since childhood. Kyochi pointed to the woods and sighed. If it is possible, who wouldn't want to grow up happily and happily? But no, because we have many enemies, and every ninja village wants to tear our country and village from the #1 position. D. Lu was speechless for a long time and did not speak. In your imagination, what should Konoha be like? It's very prosperous, maybe life is good. D. Lu told the truth. As a monk, as a child, he appeared very honest. Kyochi nodded slightly, and then said, they could have lived a better life, but in order to defend their home and country, they can only sacrifice their youth. Ninjas have never been an honorable profession. We will use methods, tactics, and even assassinations to achieve the goal of protecting the land of fire by any means. Hokage is even more so. Do you know the will of fire? After hearing this, D. Lu shook his head lightly, but then nodded slightly. He scratched his big bald head. After a second or two, he said honestly, I just heard about it, I don't know if it's true. Oh. You can talk about it. Kyochi led him out of the village, while smiling gently, without looking oppressive, like a neighbor talking heart to heart. Delu scratched his head and said, I heard from guests that it seems that where the leaves dance, the fire is always alive. That's right, there is a second half of this sentence. The fire will illuminate the village and let the new leaves sprout. Kyochi is like small talk. Talking while walking, we came to a place where we could see Hokage Rock. After hearing this, Lu savored it carefully in his mind. The fire illuminates the village and makes the new leaves sprout. Never heard of this sentence. At this point, Kyochi pointed to the four heads. Shodai was born with a sage body and could have lived for a long time, but in order to protect the Fire Nation and the peace of the world, he died very early. Naidem created the Flying Thunder God, which can run amok on the battlefield, but in order to kill the elite team, he took the initiative to stop Cloud Shinobi Village from rebelling against Golden Horn and Silver Horn, and finally died in the Land of Thunder. Having said this, Kyochi sighed softly and remained silent for a few seconds. Lulu's heart became heavy. He can feel the merit and will of each generation of Hokage. They are all great. For the sake of the country, the village and future generations, they can give up a stronger self, just for hope. He admired it in his heart, bowed and saluted from a distance, and then pointed to the third portrait. Master Kyochi, what about this one? Does he have any great deeds? Kyochi snapped. How to blow third generation? He thought for a while, and said, during his tenure, we defeated the alliance of the four major powers, and Konoha's system gradually improved, and finally retired, and he made Konoha great again. Amazing. Lulu couldn't help admiring this third generation. For Konoha third Hokage, he still knows a little bit, at least. That one is not dead yet. I was not strong before, but when I thought that when the village and the country were in danger, I wanted to protect the village and everyone, and I had infinite strength in my heart. Kyochi looked at several headshots. His face was full of emotions and complex expressions. I think first generation, Naidem should be like this back then. Let's go. I'll take you to see the school. It may be where you will live and live for the next period of time. We will try our best to cultivate your ability to protect others. Yes. Delu's face became serious. Guard the daimyo. This is the meaning of his departure from the Temple of Fire, and also the meaning of coming to Konoha to learn. He will not forget. But, after hearing what Kyochi said, he seems to have a new feeling for Konoha and Hokage. Hokage is not due to the embodiment of power. His presence is guardianship. Guardian, is this what Master Kyochi wants to tell me? Delu thought in his heart. Now, he suddenly had a new understanding of Senju killing. Guard. This is the true meaning of Senju killing. It was created to protect the companions and sentient beings behind it, not to strengthen itself and fight fiercely, which is in line with the Buddhist scriptures. Lu suddenly bowed lightly. Thank you Lord Kyochi for your teaching, I will definitely keep it in mind. I heard that you entered the school of the talent of the fairy clan, so I would like to mention you. Sure enough, you have a compassionate heart and are very suitable for the talent of the fairy clan. Come on. Kyochi patted his head. The little bald head is really smooth. He continued to walk forward. With a thought and a glance from the corner of his eye, the panel emerged. Complete the teaching of guarding the will, evaluation. Excellent, reward. Welcome Senju kill. Still a child is easy to fool. Kyochi thought that when he fooled Asuma and Shisui back then, he fooled each other accurately, but the stronger he became later, the harder it was for each of them to be tricked. What do you call yourself now? This is called not forgetting the original intention.